These are creepy TikToks that will make you rethink your whole reality.
1904, 21-year-old Oda Benga was abducted from a tribe in the Congo and transported to the Bronx Zoo, where he was put on display alongside monkeys. He was placed in a small cage with an orangutan as an apparent depiction of evolution. Oda was given a functional bow and arrow to enhance his primitive image and to protect himself from the ape if necessary. Since visitors were far more interested in Oda than the actual animals at the zoo, the exhibit was extremely popular and began shattering attendance records.
Is Michael Jackson really gone? The rumor that Michael Jackson faked his death is still well and alive. However, despite all the evidence, it only remained a rumor. Until recently, when some documents were leaked that Michael had a body double that allegedly was buried in his place.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew. Part 22. In the 18th century, you could bring your cat or dog to the London Zoo and actually pay your admission by feeding it to the lions. Bus seats are specifically designed so you can't tell how dirty they really are. When an octopus reproduces, it removes its penis and throws it at the female so she can impregnate herself, and then he grows back another one. Oysters are actually alive when they're served.
This man got 23 years in prison and he's smiling. The man's name is Jason, or the Alaskan Avenger. He's a vigilante that hunted down child sex offenders and beat the hell out of them.
I'm back, it's your boy Fittie to the E, and today I got some strange videos for you guys today. Just remember to like the video, subscribe, and if you like the chain, check the link down below. We got free shipping going out right now, that's the deal. And Christmas is coming up, so think about getting one of these as a gift for maybe your son, your daughter, your friend, whatever it may be.
Let's talk about the new case of a woman that tried to murder her doppelganger with cheesecake, and how it was solved using her Facebook posts. This is Victoria Nazarova. She poisoned a piece of cheesecake and gave it to her beauty stylist, Olga. Her plan was to kill Olga and steal her identity. People said that they looked alike, so she was literally just gonna become Olga. However, Olga only got very sick and never died. So then police were on the hunt for her. How did they find her? Well, using these photos from Facebook. A detective knew what kind of car she was driving based off of the reflection of the dashboard of the car and the stitching on the car's headrest. He then looked at her Facebook likes to see what areas or restaurants she liked. All of them were in one central area, so they knew that that's where she lived. I'm running out of time. Part 2 coming soon.
Honestly, that's why nowadays in this current generation, if you're posting on social media and you try to do a crime, bro, you're gonna get caught immediately.
This is part 2 of the case of the woman that tried to kill her doppelganger to steal her identity. She tried to do this with a poisoned piece of cheesecake. Okay, so police were on the hunt for her, right? They figured out what car she drove and what area she lived in. They then used this photo that she posted on Facebook to figure out what complex she lived in. As you can see, you can kind of see her condo building through her sunglasses. And some police officer knew this exact building. Sure enough, he was right. They went there, they arrested Victoria. Turns out that she was wanted in Russia for another murder. So her plan was to steal Olga's identity and become Olga so that she could escape Russian authorities. Now she's facing jail time, and after that she's being sent back to Russia and she's gonna get persecuted there. So, wow. Make sure you like and follow for more scary videos and check me out on YouTube, link in bio.
You see, that's strange. I was always thinking, like, why did she want to murder her stylist? I guess she was jealous, but to me, that's just a little bit sad, man.
This is part 4 of Edmund Kemper, also known as the co-ed killer. I'm warning you now, do not watch this part if you are easily triggered. He would take their bodies back to his home where he decapitated them and performed erumatio on their severed heads and had sexual intercourse with their corpses and dismembered them. During his 11-month murder spree, Kemper killed 5 college students, 1 high school student, his mother, and his mother's best friend. Kemper has stated in interviews that he often searched for victims after having arguments with his mother and that she refused to introduce him to women attending the university where she worked. He said that she would say, "You're just like your father and you don't deserve to get to know them." Psychiatrists and Kemper himself believe that the young women were surrogates for his ultimate target, who was his mother. On May 7, 1972, Kemper was driving in Berkeley when he picked up 2 18-year-old hitchhiking students from Fresno State University, Mary Ann Pesce and Anita Mary Lucchesa, with the pretense of taking them to Stanford University. After driving for an hour, he managed to reach a secluded wooded area near Alameda, which he was familiar with because of his work with the highway department. Without alerting his passengers, he had changed directions from where they wanted to go. It is there that he handcuffed Pesce and locked Lucchesa in the trunk, then stabbed and strangled Pesce to death, and then subsequently killed Lucchesa in a similar fashion. Kemper later confessed that while handcuffing Pesce, he brushed the back of his hand against one of her breasts, and it embarrassed him, adding that he said, "Whoops, I'm sorry," or something like that. Kemper put both of the women's bodies in the trunk of his Ford Galaxy and returned to his apartment. He was actually stopped on the way by a police officer for having a broken taillight, but the police officer did not detect the corpses in the car. Kemper's roommate wasn't at home, so he took the bodies into his apartment where he photographed and had sexual intercourse with the naked corpses before dismembering them, and he then put the body parts into plastic bags, which he later abandoned near Loma Prieta Mountain. Before disposing of their severed heads in a ravine, Kemper engaged in irrumatio with both of them. In August of that year, Pesce's skull was found on Loma Prieta Mountain. An extensive search failed to turn up the rest of Pesce's remains or any trace of Lucchesa. Come back for part 5.
I gotta say, that's one of the most disturbing stories I've heard all morning, bro. Like, what's going on, bro? I really be wondering why people do stuff like that. Like,
let's talk about one of the creepiest kids' toys ever to exist, the Furby. These toys are super popular in the late 90s and early 2000s. But what made them so creepy? Well, if you take one apart, it looks just like this. One of the creepiest things about Furbies is that they had a power store inside of them, so removing the batteries did nothing. Unless you laid them down like they were sleeping, they were still gonna talk to you at 3 a.m. and give you night terrors. To add on to this, if you ignore the Furby for too long, it actually changes its voice. So it sounds kind of guttural and demonic. Also, the Furby's language is called Furbish, which really sounds like they're speaking in tongues when you hear them. They also scream "feed me" in the middle of the night too. Let me show you a creepy example of a Furby toy. Check this out. Now imagine waking up to that at 2 or 3 a.m. as a child on top of that. Also, there's somebody on Craigslist that turns your Furbies into huge Furbies, which, this is even scarier than the original. Imagine this thing going off at 2 or 3 a.m. I wouldn't be able to sleep for the rest of my life. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below and what you guys want me to talk about next.
he said he wouldn't be able to sleep for the rest of his life. I think he'd be sleeping for his whole life, honestly. But what do you think about furries like that? Like, I'm not really a big fan of stuff like that, but if you are, let me know your thoughts about that.
He was all alone while working his shift when he hears this. A man that works as a custodian at his school explains that him and his coworkers kept hearing things during their shifts while alone in the school. But one day, he received a horrifying video from one of his coworkers. While alone in the shift, he begins to hear something coming from the end of the hallway. What sounds like a weeping child can be heard, almost like it's walking by. If no one was in the school that day, then just what exactly?
This woman laid on a couch for 12 years until she was basically melted to it. So have you ever heard of Lacey Fletcher? Lacey's parents were Sheila and Clay Fletcher. They moved to Slaughter, Louisiana about 28 years ago. As soon as they moved to Louisiana, Lacey became involved in her school. She was making friends with all the neighbor kids. She liked to go outside and play. She even joined the volleyball team and seemed like the typical teenager. Lacey was described by her peers as highly intelligent but a little bit immature for her age. Lacey really enjoyed things that her peers thought of as childish. But she was still very smart and very outgoing, but not much else is known about Lacey. At the age of 14, Lacey's parents decided to homeschool her, and that's when she just kind of disappeared from the public. Her friends from school and the neighbor kids just stopped seeing her come out as much as she used to. And it kind of seemed like Sheila and Clay were the reason that Lacey was being so isolated. They were the reason that she no longer went out into public. She was able to have a birthday party when she turned 18 years old, and she invited all of her school friends and just friends to come watch Disney movies, but at this point, these kids were 18 years old. They didn't want to sit around and watch Disney movies with her. The last time Lacey was seen in public was by her neighbor in 2007. This neighbor thought that Lacey looked very thin, but he just figured that she was exercising because she was using those weights that you can put around your ankles to walk around. And then Lacey is not ever seen again in public. In 2017, the neighbor did ask about Lacey, figuring that she had either gotten married or moved on, gone to college, or done something else with her life. But Clay told him that Lacey was still there. She was still at home. But the neighbor didn't press further. He didn't question why he didn't see her. He just kind of let things be. Then on January 3rd of 2022 at about 2 in the morning, there is a 911 call received from Sheila. Sheila says that her daughter has stopped breathing. When emergency services arrived, they realized that there was something very wrong with the situation. Lacey was laying on the couch and it almost seemed like she had melted to it. She had all kinds of sores that had been opened all the way down to the bone. Her hair was knotted up and there were maggots crawling around in it. And emergency services could tell that Lacey had been laying there for a very, very long time. There were feces and there was urine all over the couch.
I don't know, sitting down for more than 2 hours for me is really uncomfortable. So the fact that she sat there for like 12 years, they said, ridiculous.
Morbid Facts, part 342. This was the last photo taken of Linkin Park lead singer Chester Bennington the day before he would end up taking his own life. It serves as a stark reminder that those who appear to be the happiest are sometimes the ones suffering the most. You were more likely to get a job in the 18th century if you had smallpox scars. The scars prove that you already had smallpox and couldn't pass it on to other workers. During the Holocaust, Jews in Budapest were brought to the edge of the Danube River, ordered to remove their shoes, and then were shot, falling to the waters below. As a memorial for the victims, 60 pairs of iron shoes now line the river's bank where the massacre took place. Richard Ramirez was once asked how people can escape being killed by a serial killer. His eerie response was, "They've made up their minds before they even encounter you, and there's no way out of it." The victim is already at a disadvantage because he or she will never understand the mind of a killer or what he is thinking.
That's actually very, very true. Like, some killers you'll never understand. Like, why are you out here just murdering people and then, doing things with their corpse? Yeah.
Coincidence is too creepy to be true. Edgar Allan Poe wrote a book in which a boy named Richard Parker was killed and eaten by other shipwreck survivors. 40 years later, a boy named Richard Parker would meet the same fate.
Damn.
14 hours prior to the tragedy of Chris Benoit, someone from WWE headquarters had edited his wiki page that he would be missing the upcoming event due to his wife's.
So I'm sure a lot of you guys know the YouTuber named Chills. He has over 6 million subscribers and is one of the most popular scary YouTubers on the platform. And he just used one of my TikTok clips in his video, and I figured I'd share it with you guys, so here it is.
This is a game of hide and seek that I want no part of. There's a criminal running loose, and Officer Saros is it. TikToker Maximum Fear shares this terrifying doorbell footage of his search for the suspect.
Is someone there?
This is Saros Garden Police Department. Yes, I just chased the subject around your house, and I was making sure he wouldn't have came in here. Do you guys have any kids?
No, we don't have any kids. It's just me and my husband. We both work during the day.
The suspect has fled, and the officer needs our help.
Do I need to go?
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
If you could check, see if your camera picked up any motion. We're looking for a subject in a red t-shirt. Okay.
And thanks to the doorbell footage, he gets it.
He's at my trash can.
Where's that at?
Damn.
The police race to the backyard. Unfortunately, that's where the video cuts off, and the fact that we don't know how it ends, in my opinion, makes it one of the scariest videos caught on a doorbell camera.
Nah, that's cold. I think they did end up catching it. I remember seeing a part of that clip where he was actually in the trash can.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew, part 22. In the 18th century, you could bring your cat or dog to the London Zoo and actually pay your admission by feeding it to the lions. Bus seats are specifically designed so you can't tell how dirty they really are. When an octopus reproduces, it removes its penis and throws it at the female so she can impregnate herself, and then he grows back another one. Oysters are actually alive when they're served. They don't die until you eat them. In Australia, there's a plant called the gimbi, which has such a severe sting that when horses brush up against it, they actually throw themselves off a cliff because they would rather die than experience the pain. Live chat support agents can see what you type before they send it so they can reply quicker. Spider rain, yes, you heard me right, is a real and naturally occurring phenomenon.
I didn't know that those live chats can actually see what you type before you type it. That's actually a little bit strange how that is. So I'll say if you're in a live chat with a customer service person, be careful what you type.
This child killer has been caught after 31 years. 7-year-old Nikki Allen was murdered in 1992. She disappeared while walking home from her granddad's house in Sunderland on the 7th of October. Heartbreakingly, she was found deceased in an abandoned building nearby. She'd been hit with a brick and stabbed.
Damn.
Convicted offender David Boyd has now been arrested. He'd actually been in a relationship with Nikki's babysitter at the time. Now, some claim that the reason he got away with this for so long is that the police investigation was seriously flawed. David was convicted of assaulting a 9-year-old child in 1999 and exposing himself to young girls.
It really be some of the grown people that are so weird to like children. It's like, come on, bro. Come on, bro. What do the children have to do with you and your babysitter girlfriend? Like, that's so strange.
My wife has a removable face. I've never looked at what's beneath it, but my best friend has. My best friend Chris tried convincing me to set up a camera in the bathroom so I could find out what's underneath my wife's face as she was cleaning it. And even though the curiosity was killing me, I never did it. But this was the night everything changed. I was hanging out with Chris when I got a work call, so I stepped outside for a few minutes, leaving him alone with my wife Samantha. Not long after, I heard a scream. Both Chris and Samantha were wailing in terror. I dropped my phone and ran. And as soon as I got back inside, I saw the bathroom door was open. "Don't come in, I don't have my face on," Samantha screamed. "Call an ambulance, he looked, oh God, he looked." She sounded desperate and truly horrified. Suddenly, I realized my wife didn't want me to look at her real face, not because she felt insecure, but for my own safety. Chris staggered out of the bathroom holding a paperclip he used to pick the lock, and he was now stabbing it into his eyes over and over again. He lives in a psychiatric hospital now, completely blind and mostly catatonic, and no one could figure out what caused it. Samantha still cleans the inside of her face, but not as regularly, and when she puts it back on, it's always a little crooked. It's even begun to smell. He knew I'd reassure her. He broke into the bathroom. That's not on you. Not on me. That one look at my face makes people go insane. Please, I just need some time alone. You know what's strange though? Despite what happened to Chris, I still find myself curious about what my wife's real face looks like. More curious than ever, really. Follow for more.
That was quite an interesting story. Imagine you could just take off your face and just clean it. Like, what? And then it smells if you don't do that. That's kind of strange.
This man got 23 years in prison and he's smiling. The man's name is Jason, or the Alaskan Avenger. He's a vigilante that hunted down child sex offenders and beat the hell out of them. Hi, Meg. I talk about true crime. Let's get into this case. In 2016, a man called Jason Yokovich started writing the names and addresses of people who had SA'd children. The registry of the nation's sex offenders was public, so it was easy for him to find. He called his list the Quest Log. He thought to himself, if the police won't do anything about these offenders, these kids are going to end up just like I did. So if the law won't punish them, I will. Jason and his brother had an awful childhood. Their stepfather would constantly leave them covered in bruises, and he also SA'd Jason and his brother. The police were aware of it, and they did nothing about it. Their stepfather got a slap on the wrist and was allowed to continue living with the boys. They were never checked up on again. Jason left home at a very young age to escape all of this. This childhood led him to lead a life of petty crime, theft, jail time, drugs, sadness. Eventually that pain turned into anger, and that's when he started making his quest log. On the 25th of June 2016, he knocked on the door of 68-year-old Charles. When Charles opened the door, Jason forced him into the house. To make a long story short, he basically beat the crap out of Charles while telling him how disgusting of a person he is and just verbally assaulting him as well. When Jason left, Charles called the police and told the police that Jason had a whole list of names. 27th of June, he strikes again and he shows up at 25-year-old Andre's house. He did the same to him, except he also robbed him. His final attack would take place only 2 days later. He broke into 67-year-old Wesley's house. He screamed at Wesley saying, "I'm an avenging angel. I'm going to mete out justice for the people you hurt." Unlike the others, Wesley did not listen to any instructions that Jason was giving him, and so he got it the worse. Jason started hitting him over the head with a hammer, leading him to have a fractured skull. The police then caught Jason and arrested him after this attack. Jason was 42 years old when he was arrested, and he was given 23 years in prison. He will be eligible for parole after 6 years, though. Now that you know the context, it makes this picture very powerful. This is Jason after his sentence was given to him, 23 years, and this is his brother. This picture alone says so much.
Wow.
These two went through the exact same childhood, the exact same trauma, and it's just, I don't know, to me it's a really powerful image. Let me know your thoughts on this story down below.
That is a very, very powerful picture. That's actually really, really crazy. It was on like his Batman timing, like vigilante, getting revenge for what happened. Yeah, that's, honestly, hats off to that dude.
You're home alone and you hear these terrifying noises coming from the attic. This man was so scared, but he wanted to record this terrifying creature that was making these bizarre sounds. Watch all the way to the very end to see this terrifying thing. Let me know what you guys think. Pay close attention.
Hey! Hey!
What?
A serial killer just confessed over the phone over in Texas. This whole story is honestly baffling and just goes to show you exactly why you'd never let these people out. 8-year-old Kendra Page was just riding her bike around this elementary school playground in Austin back in 1982 when she was brutally ambushed, assaulted, and fatally strangled by, at the time, a 21-year-old Raul Meza. He was actually out on bail at the time for attempting to execute this store clerk at a convenience store that he was robbing. The guy survived miraculously. This dude gets caught, strikes a plea deal for a 30-year sentence, which is already nowhere near enough, but due to good behavior, they let him out after 11 years. Here he is holding his own press conference to let the public know that there's nothing to worry about.
In my heart, I know that I will not willfully bring harm to anyone.
Now cut to this phone call made to police in May of 2023. This just happened. He's like, "Hey, so I murdered my 80-year-old roommate. I know you guys found him a few days ago." And sure enough, they had found this guy a few days earlier and appeared to have been killed with a knife. And he was like, "I also strangled this 66-year-old woman back in 2019. He couldn't remember her name, but he knew the street. And sure enough, it lined up and they linked him to that one through DNA. One thing he made clear on the phone was that he was planning on killing again, was excited to do it again. That became very apparent when they caught up to him where he had a backpack filled with zip ties, duct tape, a flashlight, 22 caliber pistol, just the works. This guy was ready to go. I think he realized that he couldn't get out of killing his roommate. He was going to get caught for that. Also, there's 10 cold cases dating back to 1996 that completely align with his MO and his prison releases that they are now investigating him for.
And that's why you got to be careful, because you never never know, bro. Some people just be wanting to kill people for no reason. Like this guy just had the urge to just kill people. That's just weird. That's why I just mind my own business, you know what I'm saying? Make sure I know the people I'm around and just keep it pushing.
This is where Bloody Mary burnt 23 people alive. Hi guys, we're here today at Colchester Castle inside a fantastic museum. But as usual, we are taking you downstairs to the horrible bit. This is the castle's prison. And when the curator took us down here, the motion sensors were going off with no one inside.
The motion sensor's gone off? Yeah, there's no one in here.
This is me trying to move on from that swiftly and be as professional as possible while pretending I don't find this place horrifying. In fact, it was here where 23 innocent people were burnt alive in front of their friends and family. The architect of this cruelty was Queen Mary I, also known to her fans as Bloody Mary. Now, Mary's favorite thing to do in the whole wide world was to set fire to people who weren't Catholics, and she learned it from her dad, and his favorite thing to do was to execute people who were Catholics. It's all very confusing, but this was called, say it with me class, the English Reformation. Now, the bloodiest day of Mary's tirade took place when 5 innocent men and 5 innocent women were taken from these very prisons, tied to a stake outside, and slowly burned alive. And over the next 5 years, Queen Mary killed another 280 of her own people by burning them alive. And even the museum curator told us that often they'll hear banging from this room when the museum is closed, and that the motion sensors are always going off when there's no one here. Have a good—
If you ask me, sometimes some of these people have way too much power, bro. Like, why are you just out here killing people for no reason? It's weird to me how a human being could do that to another human. And you know how confusing that must have been? Oh, if you were Catholic, you're gonna get killed. Oh, if you weren't Catholic, you're gonna get killed. Like, what?
Morbid facts, part 340. In 1904, 21-year-old Oda Benga was abducted from a tribe in the Congo and transported to the Bronx Zoo, where he was put on display alongside monkeys.
Hey, yo.
He was placed in a small cage with an orangutan as an apparent depiction of evolution. Oda was given a functional bow and arrow to enhance his primitive image and to protect himself from the ape if necessary. Since visitors were far more interested in Oda than the actual animals at the zoo, the exhibit was extremely popular and began shattering attendance records. The zoo started seeing an average attendance of over 200,000 people per month, most of whom headed straight to the primate house to catch a glimpse of Oda Benga. But by 1906, Oda was finally released from his torment thanks to mass public outcry from the black community. A few years later, he attempted to return to Africa, but his plans were thwarted by World War I. After struggling to assimilate into American society, Oda fell into a deep depression and tragically ended up taking his own life in 1916.
That's gotta be the most racist thing I heard all morning. What? So they put this black dude in a zoo and used him as a monkey as a way to show our evolution? Then sadly, he ended up taking his own life. I can't, bro. That's crazy, man.
The most morbid ways that people have passed away, part 8. Behind me is a photo of the Queen of Thailand from the year 1880. Her name was Sunanda Kumari Ratana. On one fateful day in 1880, Sunanda and her daughter were taking a boat to travel to a palace. Everything seemed to be going well, that is until they collided with a steamboat that was going in the opposite direction. This collision flung Sunanda as well as her daughter right into the water, neither of which were capable swimmers. Onlookers watched in horror as they saw Sunanda as well as her baby try to struggle against the waves, but with no success. But not a single person jumped in to save them, even though they had the capability to do so. And the reason is shocking. In Thailand, the royal family is extremely revered, and that means that it's against the law to show disrespect to the royal family. At this point in time, touching the royal family was also a sign of showing disrespect, and this could be punishable by death. So, when Sunanda and her daughter fell into the water, nobody jumped in to rescue them for fear that they would become executed even if they saved them. The rules are not as serious today, however, it is still an offense that's punishable for up to 15 years in prison. Follow for part 9.
I don't even think they did that because they got scared of being executed. I just think they ain't even like them. If I'm being real, royal families, some royal families are really just not liked.
This is the unsettling truth about Antarctica. What I'm about to explain to you is absolutely mind-blowing, and it might change the way you completely look at the world. Okay, so we all know that Antarctica is the strangest and just the weirdest continent on the planet. But recently, an incredible theory has been spreading, and it could completely change the way we look at this strange continent. According to this theory, Antarctica is not a vast expanse of ice at the bottom of the Earth, but rather a gigantic ice wall surrounding all of the continents. And to make it even crazier, some people even believe that if we were able to cross over this giant ice wall, we would discover other continents that have been intentionally hidden from us. And there we would find other life and creatures we have never seen before, and possibly aliens. In 1992, a new standard world map was released, called the Gleason map, and it depicted Antarctica completely encircling all of our continents. And to make this even crazier, the logo for the United Nations very, very strongly resembles this map. So is this theory just completely blown out of proportion? Or do you think Antarctica is actually a huge ice wall completely surrounding us, with other continents and life beyond it? All I know is that if this is actually true, I would do anything in my power to just get a glimpse of that other world.
It's kind of hard to tell, but I don't really think that that's true with the ice walls and stuff, because if you really look at maps, I don't know if you guys ever flew in airplanes, but when I was flying in an airplane, you could kind of see how the plane was moving with the world, if that makes sense. But you know, everything nowadays can be easily manipulated, so you never really know.
Is Michael Jackson really gone? The rumor that Michael Jackson faked his death is still well and alive. However, despite all the evidence, it only remained a rumor. Until recently, when some documents were leaked that Michael had a body double that allegedly was buried in his place. Well, you see, apparently MJ had tons of body doubles. However, his #1 body double, Dmitry Dravkaskescu specifically, spent 3 years to transform into MJ using acting coaches and plastic surgery. However, sadly at the age of 47, he was diagnosed with a terminal illness, and Michael made sure that he lived in comfort for the rest of his days. But this also gave Michael the idea of having Dmitry buried in his place so he could fake his death. This was later discussed with Dmitry, and a huge sum of money was paid out to his family the day MJ's death was reported. But despite this, many people are still wondering if...
I'm not gonna lie, that'd be strange. Imagine if Michael Jackson actually fakes a death. If that's the case, how many other celebrities fake their death?
This is my favorite Kardashian conspiracy theory that lives on to this day. It's Kourtney Kardashian's third child, Reign, not a Disick, but actually a Bieber. The internet believes so strongly that Justin Bieber and Kourtney Kardashian had a baby together because they had a famous rendezvous right around the time that Reign would have been conceived. Even Ellen was on her case about it.
Does Justin Bieber help with the kids at all, or? No. That's the rumor. I know y'all are just friends, right? Or are you really dating him?
We're friends.
Yo,
You're
Ellen
friends.
be in so many people's business,
Why are you
bro.
smiling that way? We're friends.
The strongest piece of evidence is how shockingly similar Reign and Justin look. Before I even knew this theory, anytime I would see Reign, I would think, he looks like Justin Bieber. If he grows out his hair into the Bieber swoop and starts singing Baby and sounds just like Justin, I'm calling Maury. It's actually so fucked up because any video online of Reign gets flooded with comments about, he looks like Justin, Reign Bieber. Scott and Kourtney had a major breakup in 2014, and if you remember on the show, that's when Scott went away to rehab, so he was out of the picture for a while. Kourtney and Scott in their tumultuous relationship, though, were definitely known to seek revenge on each other, so in this picture with Justin, he's hiding the woman's face, and his caption was, Lord knows, and everyone knows Scott calls himself the Lord. Interesting, down the line, Scott got with Justin Bieber's ex, Sophia Richie, maybe a revenge thing. He's like, I can get the young hot stars too, Kourtney. This theory has been cited to allegedly get under Scott's nerves a lot, and he even allegedly asked Kourtney to get a DNA test to confirm that Reign is his, but she would not. And the craziest part of this theory is that Scott and Kourtney broke up for the final time 6 months after Reign was born. Make sure to follow to know all the best celebrity conspiracy theories because you know Patty has them.
I'm not gonna lie, that kind of did look like Justin Bieber's. If that is Justin Bieber's kid, that's crazy, but I don't think it is. But anyways, if you guys like the video, please like the video. Remember to check these chains out down in the description. Get yourself, a Christmas gift for your family. As y'all know, Christmas is coming up. You might be able to give you a Christmas gift to one of your friends or family.
Is this proof that 9/11 was an inside job? When the Twin Towers came down on 9/11, many people thought that there were only 2 buildings destroyed. But if you search up Building 7, there is a completely different story. Well, you see, footage from the tragic accident shows a controlled demolition of Building 7 as the Twin Towers were crashing down. Furthermore, when we dig a little deeper, we'll see that Building 7 was owned by Larry Silverstein, the same guy that the insurance companies just so happened to pay $4 billion to because of the attack. Was Larry Silverstein just the luckiest man alive?
I did not know that someone got paid $4 billion in insurance just because one of the buildings collapsed. It is kind of strange because I've heard about this theory many times, and I heard that the way that the planes hit the building, it's almost impossible for the building to collapse like that. And yeah, Building 7 didn't get hit either, so that's weird how that also collapsed. How all 3 of them collapsed when one didn't even get hit at all.
The following footage was captured by a man named Danny as he attempted to document the terrifying haunting in his home.
Yo, he didn't even move. So something scary coming towards you, and you're just gonna sit there and just like, oh my god, there's something scary coming at me. Oh my god. And just record it? Nah, I think that's a lie.
This photo is terrifying, but not for the reason you think. Sure, it does look like Abraham Lincoln is giving his wife a back massage from the outside, and that is spooky. But this woman here, Mary Todd Lincoln, was into some really witchy stuff and is the reason that the White House is haunted. Let me explain. And before we dive in, tonight's episode is all about hauntings of the White House, so you don't want to miss it. So when the Lincolns were in the White House, their youngest son, Willie, died of typhoid fever. He was only 11 when he died, and Mary, who was already suffering from mental health issues, was inconsolable when he died. And in her grief and desperation, she started holding seances in the White House. At first, they were harmless. She would just conjure the ghost of Willie, whose ghost actually still haunts the White House today. But then they started getting out of control, and Mary was calling all sorts of ghosts into the White House. Guests would hear stomping and swearing come from nowhere. One person said they even heard Andrew Jackson playing the violin once. And the White House stayed haunted after she stopped doing these seances. When William Howard Taft was president, his aides said that they were being tormented by a ghost they called the Thing. And one woman who thought she saw it actually said it looked like a young boy. So when you see this photo, it may look like a gag, but Mary was up to some really witchy stuff in the White House.
Andrew Jackson playing a violin. It's a little bit odd, don't you think?
Let me show you guys a video and let's talk about it.
What?
So obviously that video was some sort of render in a lady in a white dress. But I want to talk about the fact that this lady in the white dress and the black hair over her face is so popular among ghost stories. Seeing a woman on the side of the road in a white dress with a ghostly aura around her has been dated back all the way until the 1600s. The first reported sighting of this was in Germany back in the 1600s, and this is global, so literally every single culture, every single region has this version of this. And it's always a lady in a white dress and black hair. One of the most popular versions of this is actually in the Philippines. A lady will stand on the road by some sort of tree. She'll be waiting for you to scare the life out of you. She'll even be calling for taxis, appearing in your back seat. And she's actually blamed for a ton of road accidents. This is also popular. I'm sure you guys have seen the video from Saudi Arabia. These people are driving in a desert. A lady in a white dress appears and is chasing them down. But let me know what you guys think about this urban legend in the comment section below. And comment for what you want to see next.
This guy claims he's from the future.
My name is Adam Archon and I am a time traveler.
Adam Archon claims to be a time traveler from the year 2045. So he was sat down for a lie detector test, and every question he was asked came true. Most of the questions were about 2045, and what he said was disturbing, yet kind of interesting. He claimed that everyone would have chips in their hand for identification and payment.
I do have an implanted chip in my hand known as the One.
Now what's crazy is that's already happening now already. He also claims that the world will be ruled under one law, one world order.
In 2030, all of the world's countries converge into one supernation.
And that in his time, they successfully cloned and regenerated dinosaurs and have dinosaur zoos. This is interesting because already right now, they are starting the process of bringing back woolly mammoths.
It is true that aliens did land on Earth in August 2028.
So what do you think? Is he lying?
I feel like if you are a true time traveler, you're kind of here with a purpose. And I don't think bragging that you can time travel is one of those purposes. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just my thoughts.
This is why you shouldn't eat homemade meals from the provinces in the Philippines. When you are a traveler or a visitor in a certain province in the Philippines, some might tell you that you should not accept foods a local family offers. You see, the food you just consumed is a dish that is something taboo, perhaps a mythical creature, or even more horrifying, a dish made from human flesh. After eating the dish, you are cursed or bound to the area forever. But this gets creepier. Ever heard of Tik or Aswang? In Filipino folklore, they are shapeshifters, capable of transforming into animals or even humans. Their preferred delicacy is human flesh, especially unborn children. Some of these dishes might contain parts of these creatures, and by consuming them, you became a marked target or cursed. The Philippines is home to great dishes.
I mean, if you go to a different country, I don't think you should really just take food from people like that. That's a little bit strange. You know, if you really want food, go out to a restaurant or Make it yourself.
There was this story about the Santa Muerte, right? There was this lady, her name was Teresa, and she was in jail because she had committed some crimes and shit like that, bro. And she wanted to get the fuck out of jail, bro, because she had to be in there 60 plus years. So out of nowhere, her friends from the outside bring her this big ass box, and inside this big ass box
was La Muerte statue.
Exactly. So this whole time, like, she would pray to La Muerte every single day, like, yo, like, I'm trying to be free, I'm trying to be free. Give blood, literally, like, cut herself. Until one day she said it out loud, bro.
What the fuck
she heard? She was like, can you just set me free already? I did everything for you. I prayed for you every day. I gave you my blood. If you want, you can take my soul, and I want to be free though.
Oh my gosh.
And they do say that whenever you promise something to La Muerte, bro,
you have to do it. Yeah,
you have to do it, bro.
Yeah,
she's gonna give you what you want, but you have to come through with your side of the deal as well. So next thing you know, a guy with a nice ass suit comes and says you're free. She signs her freedom papers, whatever. Weeks later, it turns out that a woman was found mutilated, badly hurt and stuff, and the murderer and shit ended up going to the jail that she went to, and he ended up saying that Teresa was the one who was brutally mutilated and murdered, bro.
I kind of saw it coming because he said that, I'll give you my soul.
Nah, selling your soul to me is a little bit strange because that contract is basically meaning you're gonna die. Like, your soul is owned to another person, and when they want to take that, they can take it whenever they want.
3 of the most disturbing police sketches and the chilling backstories behind them. Number 1, the handyman. On the night of June 5th, 2002, 14-year-old Elizabeth Smart was abducted from her bed at knife point by this man. Her little sister was right in the same room pretending to sleep while everything went down. The immediate suspect was a handyman who had worked on the house just a few months prior. Despite being chilling, that sketch actually led investigators on a credible tip that took them to Brian Mitchell and his wife, where they had been keeping Elizabeth in remote captivity for 9 months. Number 2, the newborn woman. On March 10th, 2007, at 1:20 in the morning, an unknown woman was seen roaming the hospital floor at Lakeside Hospital. Dressed as a nurse in scrubs, she abducted a newborn baby girl that night and then seemingly disappeared. Through anonymous tips, she was located within 48 hours, but the way she was able to scour the hospital and evade security remains completely unknown. Number 3, Lime Lady. This actually isn't a sketch of a suspect, but a victim. In 1980, the body of an unknown woman was discovered by 2 fishermen near a river. She had been covered in quicklime in an effort to decompose her, but it actually counteracted and she was preserved. For more than 40 years, she remained an unknown woman, and this sketch was a haunting reminder of her missing identity. But in 2020, DNA evidence was finally able to identify her as 20-year-old Tamara Lee Tagard, who went missing while on a walk.
Now that's why it's scary. You can go for a walk and just end up missing like that. And that's crazy how they thought that that substance that they put on her body would have actually decomposed her body faster, but instead it preserved it. That's some karma shit.
Alright guys, let's talk about Click Clack. This is an urban legend about a woman who had her body cut in half by a terrible car accident. The story starts out with a mother taking her son and daughter to the mall. On the way to the mall, all of a sudden the car got stuck on the train tracks and the train was approaching way too fast. So the train plowed straight into the car. When police were searching through the wreckage, they found the dead bodies of the 2 kids. What they didn't find was the top half of the mother. They only found her 2 legs at the scene of the accident. Now, shortly after this, a string of murders happened in a small town nearby. All of the victims were children in schoolyards or playgrounds. Soon, the children started telling each other what was happening. And this is where we get the name Click Clack from. Her long nails would make a click clack sound when she was pouncing towards them. Other than schools and playgrounds, when the children were home, Click Clack would come out after 6 p.m. So all the children and everyone in the town were warning each other to not go out after 6 p.m. If Click Clack caught a child out after 6 p.m., she would rip them in half. Let me know what you guys think about this story.
My thoughts about that story is like that it was definitely a folklore that the parents told their kids so their kids don't go out past a certain time and they go to sleep on time. I swear to God, that's definitely what that is.
This is how we learned how long a head can survive without a body. At this time, the guillotine was a really popular way of punishment in France. And in 1905, a French doctor, I'm so sorry if I butcher this, Dr. Beauriot, wanted to figure out just how long a head could survive once it was... So this doctor decided that he was going to go to the next public execution and he was going to try an experiment. And that day, a man by the name of Henry Languille was set for execution. Again, I am so sorry if I don't pronounce any of these names right. Please feel free to correct me in the comments. And the doctor sat front row and center to try out his experiment. After it happened, the doctor began to take notes on what was happening to Henry. At first, the doctor noticed that Henry's eyelids were kind of fluttering, but that wasn't enough. He waited a couple of moments, and then when the eyes weren't fluttering anymore, he proceeded with the next phase. The doctor called out Henry's name and noticed that as soon as he did, the eyelids lifted a little bit and he looked right at him. Not only did Henry's eyes look up at him, but his pupils actually ended up focusing, and the doctor knew that he was looking directly at him. He said that when he looked into Henry's eyes, he was not looking at a dull expression, but of someone who was still living. But after a few seconds, the eyelids closed. So the doctor called Henry's name again, and once more, the eyelids opened, and he looked right at him. The doctor was convinced that he was looking at a living person. But finally, the eyelids closed for a second time, and when the doctor yelled his name for a third time, there was no response. The doctor noted the time, and he saw that the experiment had lasted for a total of 30 seconds. And that is why we know just how long a human head can survive without a body.
It actually is a true experiment, but that's crazy. Just think about that. You get beheaded, and then all of a sudden you're still focusing. You know how crazy that must be? You get beheaded and you're still alive?
I'm gonna give you 3 seconds to try to guess what's happening in this video. It's gonna sound crazy, but people are saying that this light flickering is a desperate plea from a ghost. Let me explain. So this is the Halcyon House, and it's one of the most haunted houses in Washington, D.C. I talk about it in this week's episode, but this house used to be owned 120 years ago by a man named Albert. Albert went mad in the house and got into some really dark stuff. He thought if he ever stopped working on the house, he would die, so he hired a man to just continuously be working on the house. And he built whatever he could. He doubled the size of the house. He built stairways that went nowhere. There was even a door on the top floor that just opened out into the air. Albert was this huge collector, so he would buy Greek statues and mummies and just live in the house amongst his collection. Eventually, Albert does die, and when he does, he has some really strange final requests. He wants to be buried on the property, he wants a wooden stake driven through his heart, and he wants a promise that electricity will never be installed. But none of his requests were ever fulfilled, and now people say that this light flickers because it's Albert trying to turn off the electricity.
I'm trying to figure out, what did electricity do to Albert? I love electricity. We watching this right now because of electricity.
Please keep me anonymous. So I've been suffering from sleep paralysis for quite a while, and would like to talk about one of my recent experiences. On this night, I had slept over at my godbrother's house. I ended up going to sleep late, but thought I was going to be okay because I'm not at my house and I'm sleeping with someone tonight. That night, I woke up not being able to move and seeing the devil in its true form, Baphomet. While I was staring at Baphomet, I felt my soul leave my body and begin to circle around the room. I remember seeing a glowing red pentagram in the room, and it was so big that it went through the walls. Suddenly, I go back to myself and see Baphomet having its hands on my stomach while slowly looking towards me. Then out of nowhere, I broke free and everything suddenly went back to normal. But I was covered in sweat, and I know it was sleep paralysis again and not a dream because I knew I was there and I was in the same spot where I had fallen asleep and exactly how I ended up falling asleep with the curtains open and the door closed. Ever since then, I always go to sleep knowing that at some point I might see Baphomet again.
Sleep paralysis is a really tough thing. I never personally really had sleep paralysis, but I know a couple people that did. If you ever have sleep paralysis, let me know your story down in the comments.
Who states that he had just recently
dog sees a ghost and gets terrified.
Place, and not too long afterwards, his dog Missy started behaving in a strange and bizarre manner. She would often stare down the dark hallway with her hair raising and standing up on her back, while barking and occasionally taking a sudden step back in fear of something unseen. On one day he is at his desk when he hears Missy barking in the corner of the extra room, so he decides to record the event. This is what he captured.
Missy. 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 What is it? Missy!
You can see Missy seems to be fixated with something in the corner of the room. Something unseen that is causing her to bark and growl, as if she felt threatened. So did this dog see something her owner couldn't? A similar video was uploaded to the YouTube channel Not Your Average Wife. The family explained that they can feel something strange in the basement, and they don't really like to go down there. But what makes this all the more creepy is that their German Shepherd dog seems to share the same thoughts in refusing to go down the stairs to the basement. watch closely.
Alright guys, I'm gonna show you one of the reasons we hate this house. This is the stairway to my basement. And this is our beautiful German Shepherd, Catherine. She refuses to come down these stairs. Catherine, come on, baby. Come on, pretty. Come on, baby. Come on. Come on, Catherine. Come on, baby. Come on, Catherine. No, she won't do it. But to prove to you that it's not that she's just afraid of stairs, we've got 2 other sets of stairs in this house that she's perfectly fine to go up and down. And I'm going to show you. Please excuse this mess. This is basically my daughter's playroom. So, see these steps. Look, look. I don't even have to tell her to go up them. Come on, Catherine. Come on. She's not afraid of stairs, guys. She's just afraid of the basement stairs.
The dog seems to be completely frightened to even go through the doorway, let alone go down the stairs to the basement. So perhaps she can sense something down there that remains unseen. What do you guys think? Did these dogs see a ghost?
I mean, I know dogs are really good at sensing stuff like that, so it possibly could be. Like, no matter what, both of those dogs did feel or see something or smell something. Who knows?
One day, me and my brothers and a group of their friends, they were all older than me, were having a sleepover. It started getting really boring, so we decided to think of stuff we could do. We came up with this one plan to go to the cerro, off-road areas, in the middle of the night, and we all agreed to that. We drove there and parked the truck, and we started walking into the dark cerro with no light. When we were walking, we see 2 white trucks flying down the mountain, so my brother told me to go prone, and so we all did. As we're laying there, we realized they had driven past us, so we decided to head back so we wouldn't get in trouble. But that's when things got bad. As we were walking back to our French truck, we see a goat, which was really weird since no rancheros lived around here. I asked my brother if he saw the goat, and he said that's just a normal goat, and as we got closer, the goat got on 2 legs and started to chase us. It was tall, with red eyes, and was walking on 2 legs. Thank God we got back safely.
What type of goat is that?
What I'm about to share with you will blow your mind. I am going to share a sound recorded by the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, called Julia. According to NOAA, the source of the sound was most likely a large iceberg that had run aground off Antarctica. However, pictures from NASA's Apollo 33A5 mission show a large shadow swaying through the southwest section of Cape Cadre at the same time as the recorded sound. Those pictures, which are still classified, apparently provide information suggesting that this unknown shadow was twice the size of the Empire State Building. Here is the original sound.
The ocean is so unknown, we have no idea what's down there. Apparently they said between 5 to 6% of the ocean has been explored. So I wonder what's good with the other 95%. Like, what do you think could possibly be in the bottom of the ocean? Skinwalker caught in the transformation process.
Can you hold the fucking light straight?
This isn't a normal horse. I've looked up a weird situation like this. It's actually a skinwalker trying to form itself like an animal.
Hello. She wants to come in, Hassan.
Whoa. goat? Why is there just a goat at your door? I don't really have any explanation for any of those.
3 famous celebrities that are now ghosts. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe was found dead on August 4th, 1962, and some say she still haunts the Brentwood home where her body was found. There are claims of Marilyn being seen in the mirrors of the home. Still checking out her beauty, I guess. Lucille Ball. Known for her beloved character in I Love Lucy, the mansion where Lucille Ball took her last breath is believed to be haunted. Unexplained noises and even furniture being moved on its own has been reported. She apparently also likes to visit the studio where I Love Lucy was filmed. Walt Disney. Walt Disney is believed to be one of the many ghosts that haunt Disneyland. There is even video of what some believe to be Walt's ghost walking along one of the pathways around Disneyland.
Honestly, Disneyland is so amazing. I wouldn't be surprised if Walt Disney just still walks around and roams it, although he's gone.
A window to the soul. So this is a story that starts weird and just gets weirder. But first, a little bit of history. Way back in 1679, Irish Catholic priest Oliver Plunkett was arrested for supporting the Catholic faith, which at the time was considered a serious criminal offense by the English monarchy. He was held in Newgate Prison in London before being executed. And so here's where things get really weird. Over 240 years later, in 1921, Oliver Plunkett's head, yes, just his head, was brought to St. Peter's Church in Drogheda, Ireland, where it was put on display in a garish, ornately decorated glass box. The St. Peter's Church also placed on display the prison door of Oliver Plunkett's jail cell from Newgate Prison, where Plunkett was held for 8 months before his execution. YouTube user Vicky Bramshaw was on vacation when she visited St. Peter's Church in Drogheda, Ireland. She is recording the exhibit of Oliver Plunkett's jail cell door when she catches something absolutely unnerving.
This is the door of the cell in Newgate Prison, where St. Oliver Plunkett was in prison for 8 months.
He's a very interesting figure, because he was one of the first ecumenical Christian priests.
There is a small opening in the ancient jail cell door, and some pale, ghostly face just seems to peek out of it at them. Vicky says she has no idea what this face could be. She says she has no knowledge of visual effects to fake something like this, and she didn't even notice the face until she reviewed her footage later. So is this the ghost of Oliver Plunkett still peering from his old jail cell door? Or is it just a very, very odd trick of the light? You decide.
In my head, I'm thinking that might just be a rodent. Like, that really could just be like a rat, you know, just like something that might have been caught up in the door. I'm not sure, but his head on display is a little bit crazy. I remember them saying that. I was like, what?
Today we are talking about the Louisville goat man, the Pope Lick monster. This part man, part sheep, part goat cryptid is probably one of the scariest things outside of Louisville. Now, he has been said to roam around the Pope Lick trestle, which rides over the Pope Lick Creek. This is about 90 feet tall, but is responsible for more than 4 deaths from people dying from oncoming trains. Now, the origin of the Pope Lick monster is still a bit of mystery, but people believe it has to deal with a farmer and his dealings with the devil. Other people theorize it is a product of bestiality, but no one can say for sure. Now, some of the lore says that this monster uses mimicry and or hypnosis to lure people onto the trestle, and then they become stuck while an oncoming train takes their life. Now, the local government actually had to issue warnings to people to stop looking for the Pope Lick monster because tragedies were happening on the Pope Lick trestle of people passing away as they get hit by an oncoming train. Damn. Have you ever had an encounter with the Pope Lick monster? Tag a friend and let them know about this scary creature in Kentucky.
It's a little bit scary how people will go out their ways to look for monsters and like folklores and stuff like that. Me personally, nah.
This is still one of the craziest true crime stories I have ever heard of. Greg Flanagan was described as a kind and compassionate man. His friends said that he would not only give the shirt off his back, he would also give the shoes off his feet. Greg lived in Lafayette, Louisiana, but he would often travel to Beaumont, Texas. I know I said it wrong. Go ahead and correct me in the comments. For work. He and his brother had started an oil company that was massively successful. So during the weekends, he would travel home to be with his wife in Lafayette, and then he would go back to Beaumont during the week and stay at the Elegante Hotel. Greg was very much a creature of habit. Anytime he got to his hotel room, he would crank up the AC, get a couple candy bars because he had a sweet tooth, lay on the bed and watch TV and smoke a lot of cigarettes. And every morning he would call his wife on his way to work. Any change in this schedule would be very unusual. On September 16th of 2010, Greg's wife did try calling him when he should have been on his way to work. When he didn't answer, she knew something was very wrong, so she tried calling his coworkers, hoping that maybe he had gone into work early that day, but when they hadn't seen him, she asked that they go to his hotel room and check on him. And when they got to the hotel room and knocked on the door and there was no answer, they knew something was very wrong. They had the hotel manager open up the door, and that's when they found Greg's body. Police started investigating immediately. This is where the case gets super weird. The hotel room didn't look like there had been a struggle inside. Greg still had his ring. He still had his wallet, which had $1,000 cash inside of it. So robbery was very quickly ruled out. The rest of the guests were interviewed and nothing seemed amiss. None of the other guests said that they saw or heard anything. So police started checking into Greg's past and seeing if there was someone that was out to get him, but there just wasn't anybody. Greg was someone that got along with everyone and he was just kind. As far as Greg's body, it seemed perfectly intact. Apart from an abrasion on his cheek, it looked like he got out of bed and fell down and he got rug burn on his cheek. So not long into this investigation, his body was released to the coroner, and this is where things get even weirder. Apart from the abrasion on his cheek, the coroner only noticed a small abrasion on his scrotum. But once he looked deeper into Greg's body, he saw severe trauma. The coroner said that he only saw trauma like this in victims of car accidents or if something very heavy had fallen on somebody. He had a laceration on his liver, he had several broken ribs, and he even had a hole in his heart.
Damn.
The coroner said this could only have happened from a severe beating. And yet the outside of Greg's body looked completely fine. I'll get into more in part 2.
When she said hole in his heart, I was like, yo, how does the outside of your body fine, but your ribs are broken, your heart has a hole in it? That's a weird story.
10 things you shouldn't be doing during the Hungry Ghost Festival. Number 1, do not stay out late at night. The ghosts roaming around get stronger with the yin energy from the moon at night, so when you walk around, you have higher chances of getting possessed. Number 2, you should not wait at the bus stop alone at night. Ghosts require transport too, and they have a special bus waiting for them. So when you're waiting alone, there are chances the ghost might follow you back home. Number 3, you shouldn't travel or go on a vacation during the 7th month. When you travel during the 7th month, there are chances of you getting bad luck. Number 4, you shouldn't be standing near water bodies. Walking near water bodies might allow the vengeful spirits to drag you into the water, replacing them. Number 5, do not pick up strange things on the floor. Even if you find money, try not to pick it up during the 7th month as it might belong to a ghost. Number 6, do not look behind at night. If you feel a sudden coldness, there might be a ghost behind you, so stay calm and walk ahead. Number 7, if you feel like someone is calling your name, do not respond or turn behind. The Chinese believe that there are 2 torches of light on your shoulders, so when you turn back, there will be an imbalance of yin and yang, allowing the ghost to attack you. And when you answer them when they call their name, you are actually giving them permission to enter your body. Number 8, try not to have bangs during the 7th month. The Qi energy, otherwise known as life energy, is concentrated on your forehead, so when you get bangs, you're actually blocking the Qi energy, allowing ghosts to enter your body easily. Number 9, avoid wearing heels at night. By wearing heels, you're actually being elevated from the ground, allowing ghosts from the underworld to attack you. Lastly, do not shave or cut your hair during the 7th month. The Chinese believe that every strand of hair protects you from ghosts, so when you cut your hair or shave your hair, you're actually decreasing your chance of protection from ghosts.
It's actually a very interesting perspective right there. Can't have bangs because it blocks out right here and you might get infected by ghosts. I wonder, what do you think about that? Put that down in the comments.
This town in Queensland is said to be haunted by the ghost of a grey lady. These are the ghost stories from our own backyard. So sit down, dim the lights, as I tell you about the Grey Lady of Roma. The idea of a Grey Lady ghost is not uncommon, but this story is particularly strange. Roma is a rural town located in Queensland. In the late 1800s and before his death in 1922, James Laylaw was an important part of the Roma community. He was the owner of the Gubba Ramunda station. In the late 1800s, James Laylaw gave a man who worked for him permission to build on his land. That man's name was Mr. Bonner. The land was located behind the Roma Hospital, and Mr. Bonner built a small cottage for him and his wife. And the locals took quite an interest in Miss Bonner. She was described as expressionless, and was often seen wearing a grey dress. However, the Bonners completely disappeared one day, leaving food in their pantry and their cat behind. For a while, the cottage behind the Roma Hospital remained empty, until a man named Johnson moved in with his family. And things began to get really strange. The family said that there was an eerie atmosphere in the cottage, as though there was a presence that moved about, silent and unseen. One of Johnson's daughters, Tilly, became extremely ill, and had to go to hospital for an operation. And when she got home, she was put to bed immediately, covered in bandages. The next morning, she was described as being agitated and confused, and said that during the night she had been visited by a grey lady, and that the lady told her to take off all her bandages if she wanted to get well. The day went by until the afternoon, when her mother came back to check on her. She was found unconscious in her blood-soaked bed with her bandages removed. She unfortunately passed away before the doctor arrived. But the tale of the grey lady does not end there. Around the same time of Tilly's passing, her older sister was leaving the house on a date. As they were leaving, the young man had a sudden urge to look back at the cottage, and stood at the cottage in the moonlight was the grey lady staring back at him. He immediately bolted away, getting stuck in barbed wire in the process. The family then moved out after becoming terrified of the grey lady ghost. Since then, the grey lady ghost has been spotted by many of the locals, walking towards the hospital in the area of where the old cottage once stood.
They were just digging up the weeds when they see this. A man named Gus has been anonymously documenting a series of hauntings that have been tormenting him and his family. Ever since they moved into that house, they have been hearing voices late at night and waking up with inexplicable scratch marks. But one day, as Gus and his son are pulling weeds outside, underneath the soil, they make a horrifying discovery. Human skeletal remains are dug up, and as they do, something begins to frantically knock on the window. But no one seems to be there. Gus contacted the authorities and will later uncover that the skeletal remains were buried alongside witchcraft items.
I look and wonder how you know what items are witchcraft items. Just a thought.
Brad Pitt might be one of the most powerful actors in the world, but it's not helping his home life because now he's being trashed by his children. Brad Pitt and his ex-wife Angelina Jolie do have 6 children together, 3 born biologically and 3 adopted. There was an FBI probe done against Brad Pitt because of an incident that happened with him and Angelina Jolie on their private jet heading to France, where Brad Pitt grabbed her head, slammed her against a bathroom door while his children were watching. Brad Pitt started shouting at Angelina Jolie, saying she won't take his children away from him, and then also threatened to fight his children if they were to fight back. Now there's been a resurfaced Father's Day post from Brad Pitt's son Pax saying he's a highly abusive father, a complete psychopath, and one of the worst dads he could possibly imagine. At the same time, Brad Pitt's daughter Sahara Pitt reveals she'll no longer be using Pitt as her last name, instead using Angelina Jolie's last name because she hates her father. It does make sense seeing how Pax said Angelina Jolie is the only parent that cares about them, and Brad Pitt hates his 4 younger children, which 3 of them happen to be adopted. And Pax said the only reason he deleted the story going against his father was because he was afraid what was going to happen with his father being angry. And now it's been revealed Brad Pitt hasn't seen some of his adopted kids in years, and with that, I'm Charles Peralta. Subscribe if you learned something.
Nah, that's crazy. I didn't even know Brad Pitt was a bad dude. I thought he was always chill. But let's see. They did show what the son said about his father. Let's see. Let's read that right now. He said, "Happy Father's Day to this world-class a-hole. You time and time again prove yourself to be a terrible and despicable person. You have no consideration or empathy towards your 4 youngest children who tremble in fear when in your presence. You will never understand the damage you have done to my family because you are incapable of doing so." That's crazy. Imagine saying that about your own father on Father's Day. Wonder how he felt about that. Check the link down in the description. Every single chain right now has free shipping. Think about getting one for maybe your friend or your sibling or just someone you care about for Christmas.
Same man in their dreams, the Hat Man.
But it's not just those students. Thousands of people all over the world have all claimed to see a tall shadow man with a hat standing over them. And when I say standing over them, I mean standing over them. All of the people who've encountered the Hat Man have all talked about how much they were falling asleep before this happened. What some people don't know is that the Hat Man actually shows himself before a big disaster happens in that same person's life. I believe the Hat Man is just a warning, like somebody who comes to warn you before a big disaster in your life. But wait, there's actually a way to call upon the Hat Man. By placing your hand on the mirror at midnight and repeating the words Hat Man 3 times is said to actually call upon the Hat Man in your house.
I don't think there's any need for me to call upon Hat Man. If he's a warning that's gonna tell me something crazy is about to happen in my life, best believe I'm not calling him to me, or I'm not trying to see him. If you guys have ever seen the Hat Man, let me know your story.
You have no idea how creepy Elvis was. He has a record for going after underage girls. He started dating his wife Priscilla when she was 14. And because she looked so young, he bought her a wardrobe to make her look more like an adult. She had to wear heavy makeup so she could look older and had to dye her hair black so she could look like Elvis. She said she felt like a doll. Elvis would also invite her child friends over to have underwear parties. Middle and high school girls, like young girls, okay, would stand outside of his house and cheer, like, you know, fangirls. And instead of sending them away, he would invite them inside. They would have pillow fights and tickle parties and wrestling sessions. Elvis spent hundreds of dollars buying Polaroid film and taking pictures of these young, minor, underage girls while they were indecent. After his divorce, Elvis tried to convince this nightclub owner to let him raise his 14-year-old daughter and then date her at the same time in Graceland, and the owner declined. This is just the tip of the iceberg though. Let me know if you want to see more.
Nah, the Elvis Presley story was weird. How you gonna be 20 years old plus messing with a 14-year-old? That's insane, bro. That's interesting. I never knew that about Elvis Presley. That kind of like twisted my views on him. That's crazy.
King Tut Mandela effect has just been solved by me. In the King Tut Mandela effect, when I was younger, his sarcophagus only had a snake coming out of his head. Now it's a snake and a bird. Yeah, I guess it's not just a snake, it's a snake and a bird. But not so fast, my friends. Because me, Joe, with the giant cheese head, found something that blows this thing out of the water. Watch this and decide for yourself, Booshkies.
On display in Los Angeles, artifacts from the tomb of King Tut.
Did you all see that? Let's take a closer look. This is from the early 80s, a representation of King Tut's sarcophagus, and it's only got a snake on its head. Where's the bird? Because this thing shows a bird next to the snake on its head. In my universe, there was just a snake. Proof that the King Tut Mandela effect is real, Booshkies. In your reality, did that sarcophagus just have a snake?
They do say that a lot of Mandela effects actually aren't real and we're just the one with the memory lapse. I don't know, if there's millions of people that can recall something and everyone's like agreeing to something, that's a little bit strange. I don't know, what do you think about the Mandela effects? Put your thoughts down in the comments.
Let's talk about more Saw Easter eggs. So I'm sure you remember the Venus flytrap from Saw 2, the one where the guy has a death mask that closes all around his face. And I'm sure you also remember Dr. Gordon from the first movie. He was locked in the bathroom trap. Well, it is revealed in Saw 7 that Gordon has been an apprentice this whole time ever since his bathroom trap was complete. And it's shown that Gordon actually helped out with the Venus flytrap. He actually helped sew the key behind the guy's eye. But I know what you're thinking, like, how well did they really have this planned out? You know, there's like a good gap of movies in between this. Well, not only is Dr. Gordon's coming back hinted at in Saw 6, the movie before this one, but they actually have a little clue hidden in Saw 2, so let me play it for you.
Right now is your own body, not more than 2 hours ago. Don't worry.
Jigsaw plays footage of the eye surgery as it was about to happen.
I'm not gonna lie, Jigsaw is one of my favorite movies. Jigsaw, Saw X. Saw X was the newest one. I recommend watching it. It's 10 out of 10.
Yo! Check this out, fam. What? If there's 2 people climbing a mountain, I know you weren't with 2 people, but...
Yeah, we were 6.
There's this phenomenon called the third climber.
What the fuck?
You heard about this? So, a lot of climbers that go with like a duo, they climb a mountain or they go on a huge trek and they come across another climber that guides them and tells them how to complete it. But the moment they complete it, they can't find him.
Like a random person?
Like a random
Low-key, we saw like a bunch of people, they would say hi to us randomly,
Mhm.
but I think that's just Canada.
They're just saying hi, they're saying what's up, bro. They're nice.
There was a couple beside us, and they took some next short route. We couldn't find them on the hike, except we found them at the top.
Oh shit.
So it's kind of weird, but
So they like teleported.
no, but Loki, we were like, yo, they just went on the side.
Is it a giant? The story behind this video is extremely unsettling. This video was taken by a TikToker named Andrew Dawson. He's been missing since he posted this on Twitter. At first, one might think it's just a person at the top of a mountain, but the video was shot from several kilometers away. A person of normal size cannot be distinguished at this distance. He returned to the location during the night, but a person from the Secret Services told him to turn back as he was breaking the law. However, it was a public place, so he had the right to be there. He still managed to bypass the people blocking access and took more videos before going back home. What's eerie in this story is that after that, cars followed him, and he claimed these were the same cars that had blocked his way. But this story gained so much attention that some people decided to go to the location themselves and conduct their own investigation. So, there are a lot of videos circulating on the internet where you might see suspicious shapes and helicopters flying around the area, but there's no guarantee that these videos are real. It became even crazier. He made an official statement where he said,
I've actually heard about that story, and apparently they said that he died, which is super crazy. Why did he get sent back by the military when he went up there? Like, what are they hiding on top of that mountain? That's the real question.
Morbidly wholesome facts, part 62. Two of Kurt Cobain's best friends, Mark Lanigan and Dylan Carson, say that Courtney Love saved their lives after Kurt's death. They were struggling addicts at the time, and Courtney felt that Kurt would want them to be saved. So she decided to support them both morally and financially so that they could go to rehab and turn their lives around. A man's dying wish was to be buried on his Harley Davidson in a glass casket so that his rider friends could see his final ride. If a pregnant mother suffers organ damage, the baby in the womb sends stem cells to repair the damaged organ. While on death row for killing a police officer in 1987, Tennessee man Philip Workman was told to make his last meal request. But instead of a meal for himself, he wanted a pizza to be donated to a local homeless person. His final request was denied, and Workman refused to eat anything before he was executed that night. But the next day, homeless shelters across Tennessee received thousands of donated pizzas from people all over the state honoring Workman's last request.
That's messed up how the prison just didn't donate it to where he wanted to be donated. It's not really that hard. He just wanted like one box of pizza donated. The baby creating stem cells for the mom if they have a damaged organ, that is some next level stuff. Like, that is actually one of the craziest things I heard all day.
What if the Tower of Babel was more than just a biblical story? This colossal tower, attributed to the ancient Babylonians, was an ambitious endeavor aimed at reaching the heavens. But could this story hold any historical truth? Recorded in the book of Genesis in the Bible, the tale of the Tower of Babel has intrigued generations. According to the scriptural account, the people of Babylon embarked on constructing a tower that would ascend to the heavens. However, displeased with their audacity, God intervened, causing them to speak diverse languages, leading to their inability to communicate and ultimately abandoning the tower, leaving it unfinished. Though many view this biblical narrative as a myth or allegory, some researchers speculate that the Tower of Babel might have been an actual structure. In antiquity, the city of Babylon, situated in modern-day Iraq, boasted remarkable advancements in architecture and engineering. The city was renowned for its ziggurats, massive stepped pyramids used as religious temples. Hence, some propose that the Tower of Babel could have been a ziggurat either left incomplete or gradually lost to the ravages of time.
These people building it without any sort of like real amazing technology is very, very confusing.
Horror movies, hell yeah. Let's do it. Here's 10 Asian horror movies that you need to watch. And yeah, we're going to exclude Ju-on and The Ring because everybody know about them. Oh yeah, peep the new horror rugs though. These mugs clean. Starting this list off with 2001's Pulse from Japan. A super slow burn movie with a great payoff. And when I say that one go scene, I mean that one go scene. You'll see what I mean when you see it. Next, I got Shudder from 2004 from Thailand. This one got an American remake in 2008. Don't watch that one. Watch the original. When I say this shit creepy as hell, I mean, this shit creepy as hell. In fact, there were a lot of scenes in this movie that rivaled The Grudge for me. Next, from Korea, I got Gangnam Haunted Asylum. If you've seen Grave Encounters, then watch this one. It's literally the same movie, except this time it's in Korea, and the spooky factor was definitely top tier. Next, from Thailand, I got The Medium. This movie takes you on a journey through the entire process of being possessed by a demon, and it's shot like a mockumentary kind of style. Like you following the girl around as she's getting worse and worse. Movie about 2 hours long, but I'm telling you, it's worth it. Next, from Japan, I got Noroi the Curse, found footage flick that you need to tap into. I've suggested this movie a couple times on this channel, but I'm just doing it again. The ending of this movie, creepy as fuck. Sometimes you just need to leave it alone, stop investigating stuff. Next, I got another one from Japan, 1999's Audition. This movie is depraved. If you are squeamish, you might want to skip Audition. Bro thought he found the perfect submissive woman. Nah, she was a nutcase. Next, I got The Sadness from Taiwan. Whoa, this movie had everybody going crazy when it first dropped. Man, listen, this movie had my jaw dropped the entire time. The whole movie, I was like, how can it get any fucking worse? Not even gonna front, The Sadness is like top 3 on this list, bro. Not even lying. Next, we're going back to Korea with Train to Busan, one of the greatest zombie movies of all time. And real quick, a little sidebar. If you wanna watch an anime that's very similar to Train to Busan, that can kind of serve as like a prequel, watch Seoul Station. Trust me, you'll like it. With a double Korea feature, man, I got A Tale of Two Sisters. Fun fact, A Tale of Two Sisters actually got an American remake called The Uninvited, but it was not really marketed as an American remake. But trust believe me when I say, these are the same movie. And if you look up Uninvited, it'll tell you that it's a remake of A Tale of Two Sisters. Imagery in this movie was super creepy and uneasy. You'll like this one too. The next one is a recent movie that I watched from Indonesia called Satan's Slaves. The title was not really appealing to me, and I don't really like horror movies that use the word devil or Satan because it's usually lame. But this movie was not one of those movies, bro. Definitely drew a lot of inspiration from Insidious and The Conjuring with a little Asian twist. This movie was definitely creepy. And it got a sequel, but I think the first one is good enough. Oh, and lastly, I got an honorable mention because all these movies, I never mentioned China. So tap in to Incantation. This movie had TikTok going nuts when it first dropped, bro. I think it's a pretty solid flick. You need to check it out. After there, I go 10 Asian horror movies that you need to watch.
I'm not gonna lie, anyone that's ever watched Japanese anime will know that anime is one of the best storytelling shows you could watch. Like honestly, I watch anime, the plots are amazing.
My least favorite Saw trap is the public execution trap from Saw 7. Here's how it works. You have this woman and these two dudes, Brad and Ryan. She's basically two-timing the both of them. It's worth noting these boys were friends before she came into the picture. It's also implied that along with the cheating that's happening here, she's also having the boys do illegal things for her, like shoplifting. Jigsaw sees all this and is like, okay, one of y'all have to die. Basically, these saw blades, there's 3 of them, and it has to go through one of them completely. So the boys have to choose whether they want to off one of themselves or if they want to work together to off her. Obviously, they have a discussion about how the girl is cheating, you know, whatever. In the end, they decide bros before hoes, and they get rid of her. But the reason why I hate this trap is it's in public for no reason. It's the only Saw trap to ever happen in a public space. The trap was just set up for a while ahead of time, and nobody calls the police until they start waking up and the trap begins.
Yeah, that's kind of strange. Like, why is it in public, and why did no one just be like, yo, why is that guy just creating a trap right there? Like, what the f?
I'll tell you a new story. In 1906, alien ship crashed on Earth. Lab-made animals and unexplained phenomena. A half-robot alien race. Images transmitted into space for eternity from Antarctica.
Why they post it up like a human? Yo, why they post it up like a human? My man had a gun on him. It was like, why they take a picture? That's weird. I don't think aliens would do that.
Favorite cookie? Chocolate chip. My favorite cookie is Oreos. I didn't know this. Oreos, bro, are satanic. What?
In what way? What the fuck?
Yo, check this out. This guy studies like religious symbols specifically.
No way.
On an Oreo, you know how that pattern's on the front?
Yeah, it's like a checkerboard.
It's interesting. It catches your eye. You never really decipher like what is this pattern.
Yeah.
The cross on the Oreo
is
a satanic cross. So you see the top like this?
Whoa.
And then you know the Freemason compass?
Yeah.
It's also this part of the Oreo, like the triangle. There's like stars and shit.
Where are the stars? Describe
right there. It makes a star
like
out of
all
the triangles.
All
right?
corners. Fuck.
I know it seems like a coincidence, but at the same time, what would this design be?
Yeah.
This is where it gets even crazier. The word Oreo. What the fuck does that mean, bro? What the fuck does Oreo mean?
What does it mean, bro?
Where'd they come up with that name?
I don't even know.
Chips Ahoy? Chocolate chips, right?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't matter because I'm not a big fan of Oreo. So if you eat Oreos, put it down in the comments. I don't eat Oreos.
Okay, and so we have a lady walking home at night by herself, and she sees something, and oh Lord, it's the Babadook. It's the Babadook. It's the. Whether it's in a word or in a book, you can't get rid of the Babadook. He's around 6 feet tall. He wears a big black coat with his hat on his head and his fingers long and sharp. The Babadook is said to haunt whomever reads this poem. If you have any guilt or fear inside of you, he will show up in your home. As you become more and more frightened, the Babadook becomes more and more monstrous and powerful. The Babadook has the ability of shape-shifting. He can shape-shift into any human, animal, or insect. His name was Greg, and he was just 14 years old. He thought the Babadook was just a joke that him and his mom watched one night, so he went to the mirror to say the poem, the Babadook's poem. After reciting the poem in the mirror, he heard a crooked sound, the sound of Dook, but he thought his mom was messing with him. As he walked to the living room, he saw his mom in the living room passed out, thought she fell asleep. I can't say what else happened.
The detail in the Saw X trailer that you might have missed. In the trailer, they discuss that John Kramer is going to Mexico for an experimental cancer treatment. We obviously find out in the trailer that this is a scam, it's a hoax, his cancer is not really cured. But he's going to Mexico City for this treatment. And I remembered in one of the other movies, Saw 6 specifically, they discuss the idea of a cancer treatment being held outside of the country. But they don't say Mexico. I screenshot this picture from the trailer talking about the Dr. Lady's website, and it says that she's based in Norway but does international outreach programs. And sure enough, here's the clip from Saw 6.
This is a doctor in Norway. He's got a 30 to 40% success rate with gene therapy. He injects what he calls suicide genes into cancerous tumor cells. Then an inactive form.
He is then obviously denied this healthcare coverage. That's the whole point of Saw 6.
Like I said again, man, Saw X, 10 out of 10. Only if he likes things like that, though, because it can get pretty gory.
Morbid Facts, Part 363. While serving a life sentence for murder, Rocky Beeman brutally murdered a fellow inmate who was serving a life sentence for essaying a 10-year-old girl. But despite this, Beeman was later given a child rapist as his cellmate, who he proceeded to brutally murder as well. He said he resented sex offenders and that killing them gave him, quote, the best feeling I've had in a long time. He also said the only way to stop him from killing them was to execute him. Beeman was eventually sentenced to death, but took his own life while on death row in 2020. Grady Stiles Jr. was born in 1937 with a rare genetic condition known as ectrodactyly, which gave him claw-like hands and feet. He became a circus performer under the name Lobster Boy, but was known to be a viciously abusive alcoholic in person. In 1978, he was convicted of murdering his daughter's fiancé on the day before their wedding. He openly confessed to the murder but wasn't sent to prison since no state institution had the resources for an inmate with his condition. Stiles continued to perform until 1992 when he was murdered by a hitman hired by his wife and son.
Damn! They really wanted to get him out of there. His own wife and son murdered him. But why did he have to kill his daughter's fiance? Like, the dude was probably just chilling.
Islands that are infested by animals. Cat Island.
They never bother me.
Home to over 200 wild stray cats. Crab Island.
I don't need a lot. Coffee's only a dime.
Crabs, I'm guessing.
Home to more than 1 million large crabs.
1 million large crabs. Wow.
Did you see what was happening in Peru, bro?
What was happening in Peru?
There's a Peruvian village in the mountains that claimed they were being attacked for weeks since July 11th by 7-foot-tall aliens that were dressed like the Green Goblin. They were 7 feet tall with armor and yellow eyes. This was on the news. The army was there. The cops was there. Supposedly a 15-year-old girl almost got... The locals would shoot at him, but every time they shoot, that will like deflect off. But nobody talking about this. You know what the cops said they were, bro? They said they're gold using jetpacks.
What?
First of all,
don't have jetpacks.
No, but don't got. That's what, like, I looked it up on Google. That's literally what it said. But do you think they actually like experienced something, or you think they're just...
Now, if everybody in the village is saying that, I think it's like, okay, yeah, it's for real.
Think so? They call them like skin peelers. Like, a lot of the people in the village went missing, and then they found their bodies and like their like faces like peeled back.
Nah, I think it's real, bro.
I think they seen something.
Like, if you told me this happened like 50, 100 years ago, I'd be like, word, that's another folk tale. Bro, we talking about 2023, bro. They got cameras on them. They ain't lying like that.
Yeah, that is sus, and we are in 2023. We got cameras, but at the end of the same time, we're in 2023, so that means everything can be easily manipulated. So kind of like a two-edged sword. If you know anything about that Peru incident, put it down in the comments, because I'm actually interested about that. I might go look it up after this video, because I never heard about that.
Caught on camera, part 33. What the fish happened?
Bro, it looked like that Thor thing. You know when Thor uses that gateway bypass thing and he comes down to Earth? That's exactly what that looked like. That's crazy. You know, I was scrolling through Twitter and I saw this bombing the other day, so we're gonna look at that. Like, let's see what that is. Yeah, this is it right here. It says, house in Arlington, Virginia explodes after police reportedly approached it with a search warrant. Damn! Hold on, let's see that again. Damn, the whole thing collapsed too. That's crazy, man. Me and my friends were talking about that and we're like, yo, that might have been a meth lab. Like, what the hell? There's no other reason a house should or just will explode like that. And plus the cops wanted to search it for obvious reasons, so something was going on. If you guys know anything about that, put it down in the comments.
Oh, the government has confirmed aliens. He was like an ex-US Air Force personnel, whatever, and he swore that they have like a UFO retrieval and like re-engineering like program. They retrieve UFOs, they've created UFOs, and they've like retrieved like biological aliens.
If they retrieved the aliens, right? The aliens that landed are definitely like the researchers. We sent somebody to the moon, we sent somebody there. We didn't send Arnold Schwarzenegger, bro. They sent like people with PhDs and like scientists.
Yeah, you know, but I don't think they came here. I feel like they've been here already.
Like just hiding it?
Either that or they might be living amongst us, man. Like, think about it as like a zoo enclosure. They make it look like their habitat and they can walk through and that the bear will never know.
Oh, and you know how like their food has like muscle relaxers so they don't get aggressive. Yeah. So like for us, like as we get closer, it could be the stuff we take in, like the food. Oh. Feel me? It could be like not just food, like as simple as the stuff that takes our attention.
That makes sense though, because like if you really think about like how scientists look at animals, how we research them, imagine they research us. Imagine is like dressed up as humans and just walking amongst them.
If anything, I feel like that would be the smarter option instead of them just coming down, looking at us through UFOs and dipping out and then coming down, murdering villages and then dipping. I feel like that would be more of a wise strategy.
Wendy Williams was never the same after she ate that crow, and I'm gonna explain why. So if you don't know, in prime Wendy Williams' day, Wendy made a bet. Basically, she was like, Kim and Kanye, they're gonna get a divorce. And if they last more than X amount of days, she would eat her words and she would eat crow. Eating crow is like a thing that people say when you talk beforehand and mess with. You kind of like eat your words. But Kim and Kanye, they lasted, so she actually had to eat the crow. And I've always said when she ate that crow on live TV, it just wasn't the same with her. Now you may be wondering, well, what's so bad about eating crow? Well, eating crow is considered a bad omen in many places. Back in the day, eating crow was literally seen as a humiliation tactic, hence why it's used as an idiom to this day. Not only can eating crow be toxic for you physically, but it can also be taxing on you mentally and spiritually. Also, if you keep it with your Bible, in Leviticus, crow is being deemed as unfit to eat. Now let's take it a little deeper. When you think of a crow, what does it symbolize? Well, it's stated it symbolizes death, danger, misfortune, and illness. But it can also mean rebirth, self-reflection, and intelligence. And when you think about it, Wendy has experienced all of that. You know, after that situation, Wendy was always in some controversy. But you know, it's only so much I can put on that crow. Sometimes it's just Wendy. But Wendy leaving her husband and stepping into a new chapter, that was her rebirth period. But then after 13 years, her show ended. Due to just ongoing health issues, you know, she suffered from Graves' disease, still not getting over her mother passing away. It was a lot that went into it. But they literally dropped her show like it was a bad habit. You can't even go on YouTube and watch old Hot Topic episode, which pisses me off. And, you know, we see Wendy, sometimes she look good, sometimes she doesn't. But when she ate that crow, I just don't think it was the same. And of course, when she told Dr. Oz she's not taking the zine because she doesn't and trusted. Once she started talking about that and saying that, it was like, okay, you can keep it real and say how you mean it with celebrity news, but you a puppet figure saying this stuff, oh, you gotta go. But I make this video with love though, because I'm a huge Wendy fan and I miss her and I hope she's doing okay.
Yeah, I always knew crows brought bad luck, but I didn't know eating crow would actually also bring you bad luck. I don't know why they would make eating crow an option if that's the case. But if you have any thoughts about crows, Wendy Williams, or eating the crows, just let me know. Just check the link down below. These chains are going right now. We're actually going pretty quickly. If you like the drip and you like the bling, just check the link down below. Like, what are you waiting for?
This is the dark side of trick-or-treating. Multiple sightings of this clown were reported in Denver on Halloween night, and many of the reports claim that this person was handing out candy in different neighborhoods. Now, most adults didn't let their kids get anywhere near the clown, but a few unsupervised children grabbed candy from him. Candy that was collected as evidence showed disturbing images and satanic verses on the wrappers. A few of the children that ate the candy were actually monitored in a hospital overnight and deemed okay by doctors, but a few of them have now reported an inability to sleep. And one 10-year-old boy has reported an overwhelming desire to go find this clown, who he told his parents lives in the woods behind the school. Police are now looking for any other information the Denver community might have on this person.
What really doesn't make sense to me is that you gotta really be careful of who your kids are getting candy from on Halloween, but it's like, if this guy lives in the back of the woods, how the hell did they get to his house to get candy from him?
Let's talk about this picture. It was captured by Amanda Clark in 2017 when she was walking by the window of her ski cabin and she saw what appeared to be a man staring back at her. Now, that photo that Amanda captured was sent directly to her boyfriend, saying that there was this man trying to stalk the cabin. However, she was going to run into the same issue she would with trying to call 911. There is no service in the mountains. She could sense there was something deeply wrong with this situation. The man was just staring at her through the window. She had no idea what his intentions were, till he darted towards the house and tried to pry open the downstairs window. Luckily, he never got in, and the boyfriend did eventually return. They contacted police, and that's how we got this sketch. But that man was never caught.
Now, it's really crazy that how when you're in the woods sometimes there's no service and then boom, some crazy stuff always have to happen. No service, crazy shit happens.
Have you heard the terrifying mystery of Hotel Room 1046? One fateful day in January 1935, a man who identified himself as Roland T. Owen checked into the hotel president in Kansas City. Staff noted he was in his 20s and was nicely dressed in a black coat. He said he was from Los Angeles and requested an interior room several floors up and was booked into room 1046. A bellboy helped Owen to his room and noted that he had no luggage, only seemed to have packed a brush and toothpaste. Later that day, a hotel maid named Mary Soaptic said Owen allowed her to clean up the room and noted how dark he kept it in there, with only one dimly lit lamp on and the shades completely drawn. As she left, Owen asked her to leave the door unlocked and said he had a friend coming to visit very soon. Mary said that he seemed worried about something or afraid. She returned later that day to drop off fresh towels and walked into the room to find Owen awake, lying on the bed in the dark, completely dressed with the door unlocked. As she was leaving, she saw a note on the table that read, "Dawn, I will be back in 15 minutes. Wait." The next morning, she returned to clean the room at 10:30 a.m. per usual and saw the door had been locked from the outside and assumed that Owen had left for the day. But she was startled to walk in to find him again lying on the bed, awake in the dark. This meant that someone had locked Owen in the room from the outside. At this point, if I was Mary, I would have made like a bread truck and hauled buns. Okay, I would have been out of there. Mary cleaned up and recalled that during this, Owen answered the phone and said, "No, Dawn, I don't want to eat. I'm not hungry." Again, coming to deliver towels to 1046 later in the day, she heard two men talking inside the room and knocked on the door when a deep voice asked, "Who is it?" Mary said she had fresh towels and the voice replied back, "We don't need any." The following morning at 7 a.m., the hotel's operator noted that the phone in Owen's room had been off the hook for a while. A bellboy was sent up to the room, knocked on the door, and heard a deep voice say, "Come in, turn on the lights." But the door was locked and no one was getting up to let him in, so he yelled, "Put the phone back on the hook," and left. An hour passes and the phone is still off the hook, so another bellboy enters the room with a master key. Owen appeared to be sleeping in the bed, lying in the dark. The bellboy noticed the phone stand was knocked over, so he stood it back up, put the phone back on the receiver, and then left. A few hours later, the phone is off the hook again, so the bellboy goes back up and opens the door to a terrifying scene. There was Owen, lying within 2 feet of the door. He had been attacked.
Ooh, urban legend of
Sarah Jane.
During the American Civil War, there was a road in Texas between Groves and Port Neches. A woman named Sarah Jane lived on this road. Her husband was away fighting in the war as a Confederate soldier. When enemy soldiers were passing through the area, Sarah Jane feared that they would kill her and her baby. She went down to the river and placed her small infant in a wicker basket. Then Sarah hid the baby into the bridge to protect the child. Sarah made her way back down the road to her home and waited for the Union soldiers to arrive. After the soldiers passed by, she went back to the bridge to retrieve her baby. Unfortunately, the baby was nowhere to be found. The tide had risen and carried the baby away downstream. Sarah Jane searched through the night down the banks of the Neches River for hours in hopes of finding her baby safe and sound. Neighbors could hear Sarah Jane's screams as she searched, and she kept running up to people, weeping pitifully and asking, "Have you seen my baby?" Grief-stricken and unable to find her child, Sarah Jane walked back to the bridge and hung from the wooden beams beneath it. When people found her body, they saw a message scratched into the wood under the bridge that read, "Where is my baby?" As the story goes, if you go out to Sarah Jane Road at night and stand by the water's edge, you can still hear Sarah Jane's baby crying off in the distance. Some people claim they've spotted a noose hanging beneath the bridge. Others say they've also seen Sarah Jane's ghost searching along the side of the river for the infant child she lost so many years ago. Locals say you can stand in the middle of the bridge on a dark night and call for the ghost of Sarah Jane to appear. You have to repeat 7 times, "I've got your baby, Sarah Jane."
If she did put her baby under the bridge, wouldn't the soldiers just be able to hear the baby crying? Because babies just love to cry. So it's really sad that when she couldn't find the kid, she had it off herself though. That's some deep pain.
Here's some of the most disturbing lost footage. On August 15th, 1989, a man pulled to the side of Interstate 205 after his car overheated. Him and his son decided to go and find the nearest phone for help, but discovered a jacket not too far from the car. Under the jacket was an unlabeled VHS tape, but they were not prepared for its contents.
My hell, the whole sky's black with smoke. The fire department's trying to put it out. What a laugh. Look at it, Omar.
The cameraman was standing not far from a house completely in flames while whispering strange and eerie phrases to himself. The footage was given to the police, but they were unable to identify the house or the cameraman. The jacket that the tape was found with was also searched by police, and they found a wooden pestle and a ceramic skull, which made them suspect the arsonist was a devil worshipper. It wasn't until the tape was featured on the show Unsolved Mysteries that the house was identified. The house was located in Redwood City, about 80 miles from where the tape was found. On the night of the fire, the Woodside fire captain also recorded the burning house, and the videos were soon found to be a confirmed match. Redwood City Police Detective Mark Polo stated that he already had 2 suspects. Both were minors. After questioning the pair, they both admitted to starting the fire. One was sent to juvie while the other was committed to a mental hospital.
I really wonder what was bro's ideal purpose behind that video. Like, okay, you set a house on fire, you and Omar just gonna watch it be on fire? Like, that's not even cool, bro.
What I'm about to show you is the photo Katrina Whalen captured on her Ring camera the other night. So Katrina lives alone down a long country road in West Texas. And 3 nights ago, she invited a friend over for dinner at 7 p.m. But 7 rolls around and her friend's not there. And then 8 rolls around and her friend is still not there. And that's when Katrina starts to hear footsteps outside. Slow at first, but then it starts to sound like someone is running full speed at her house. Thinking it's her friend, she goes to open the door, but no one is there. So Katrina calls her friend, but then when the other line picks up, it's just heavy breathing. And then laughing. She's really freaked out now, so she runs upstairs, but that's when she gets the notification that someone is at her front door. And this was that someone. Katrina is still alive to tell the tale, but there's been an uptick in Reddit users complaining in West Texas of hearing someone outside and then answering the door to see no one is there.
If you're in Texas and someone knocking your door and they're not there, just be careful, man. It might be that person.
These are the top 5 scary games you should never play in real life, part 1. Okay, number 5 is the Midnight Game. This game is extremely terrifying and I don't recommend anyone playing. To start the game, get a piece of paper and write your first, middle, and last name on it. Next, prick your finger and put a drop of blood on the piece of paper and wait for it to soak in. Now turn off all the lights in your house and stand in front of your front door. Now place the piece of paper in front of your door and at midnight, knock on your front door 22 times. Now go inside and light a match. You've just invited the Midnight Man into your house. Now walk around your house with the match in your hand, and your goal is to avoid the Midnight Man. If your match goes out, it means the Midnight Man is very close by, and if you don't relight the match in 10 seconds, the Midnight Man will get you and kill you. And once the time hits 3:33 a.m., you are safe and the Midnight Man will be gone.
Yeah, best believe I'm not playing that game. I don't know why people would want to play games like that. Like, let's say you hear a game's curse, why would you want to play it? Like, let's be real.
This is the truth behind the Tooth Fairy. Now, everyone knows who the Tooth Fairy is. Once you lose a tooth, you put it under your pillow, and she comes in the middle of the night to take it and give you money. But what if I told you the Tooth Fairy is much more scarier than that? And that the Tooth Fairy has a much darker backstory. The story goes that a kid lost 2 of their teeth in the same day, and proceeded to tell her parents that she lost both of her teeth. Now, this was the first time she ever lost any teeth, so her parents told her what to do with them and put them under her pillow for money. So she proceeded to do that, and a couple hours later she was getting ready for bed. Her parents tucked her in and she was about to fall asleep, but that's when she sees her door creak open. It's super dark in her room so she can't see anything, but she squints her eyes to look at the doorway and sees something standing there. But then her door proceeds to fully open and you won't believe what was at the door. Hit the plus button for—
Let me guess, it was some scary person that is supposedly the Tooth Fairy? If so, it's pretty obvious.
Can I show you a scary video? No, because this video is crazy and nobody really talked about it. Like, it got news articles, but the original video didn't even go that viral. This video is from 2020 and it comes from Bogotá, Colombia. And in the video, the man starts to hear strange sounds at this airport called El Dorado. And he goes to investigate, and this happens.
Nadie allá. Dios mío. Bueno, voy para adentro. La sangre de Cristo me cura. Hola, hola. Hola. Hola, hola. ¿Estás acá? ¿Dónde estás? Se prenden las luces. ¿Estás jugando con la llave? ¿Ah? ¿Estás jugando con la llave? ¿Ah? Necesito otra prueba. Necesito otra prueba. ¡Ay, marica!
All of you know who's Peppa Pig. Peppa Pig is actually some kind of demon and not an adorable cartoon pig. When you search Peppa Pig's house or Peppa Pig, you will see another Peppa Pig in the house. I know you all know that, but I'm just telling you, maybe you don't know or you know. So, here is the story of Peppa Pig. Peppa was never a healthy child. She was usually ill and spent her short life in a hospital bed. One night, Peppa's parents decided it would be best if they euthanized her. So that night, Peppa fell asleep and she was injected with a poison, thus killing her.
Man, I used to watch Peppa Pig when I was a kid. I did not know all that. Is that even true? If you know anything about that, put that down in the comments.
Disturbing things caught on camera. Lauren Combs lives in an isolated area and enjoys spending time with her 2 pets. She would upload videos about her 2 pets to the internet until one day strange events started happening. First, while talking to her sister in the kitchen, a bottle suddenly fell on the table. Next, while exploring her backyard, she noticed a half-dead tree with holes. After closing up on the tree, she finds the skull of a dead animal. If that wasn't creepy and disturbing enough, wait until you see this. If this creeped you out, hit the plus sign.
I don't know, they live with animals, so I feel like if it really was like a presence, I feel like the animals would have picked up on it. I don't know, that's just my personal beliefs.
This photo is of the Cincinnati crawler. It was taken by a family who caught him in their home in 1974, but he escaped shortly afterwards. So in 1974, the Johnson family in Cincinnati noticed a couple weird things happening in their home. The 14-year-old daughter, Claire, would complain about seeing glowing eyes outside of her window at night. And then one night, the youngest son, Timmy, was laying in bed in the dark when he felt the family dog jump up onto his bed. But when he went to go pet it, it was not the dog. It was the crawler, who police still believe was responsible for the disappearance of 4 other boys in the area. Some believe that he was an escaped convict, while others actually believe that he was the victim of human experiments happening in the area that may have been conducted by the family's dad. Claire snapped this photo of him before he escaped, but he was never found since.
Have you heard the urban legend of Carmen Winstead? Disclaimer, this video is for entertainment purposes only. I repeat, this video is for entertainment purposes only. If you get scared easily, you might want to click off this video. This story goes way back. Before there were creepypastas, there was something called chain mail, where you would be emailed these scary stories, and if you didn't send them to 15 other people, something bad would happen to you. And the most popular chainmail scary story was that of Carmen Winstead. There was a girl named Carmen who moved to a new school and didn't have many friends, but eventually she found a friend group of 5 girls. They all became best friends until Carmen realized that the girls were talking about her behind her back. Not only were they talking about her, but they were also spreading rumors about her, saying that she wipes snot on people and that she lives in the underground sewer system. Little did these girls know that their bullying would have the worst consequences ever.
You really need to make sure you're double checking your house at night. This story comes from a woman named Shannon who lived in Seattle. Shannon lived alone, but for months she was complaining about weird noises coming from inside her house at night. And sometimes she would wake up with bruises on her arms that had no explanation. Shannon would also come home from work to find things in her home were not the same as she left them. Like this one time she came home and saw sawdust all over her living room floor. So that's when she set up a camera and caught this image in her kitchen one night at midnight. Shannon was obviously terrified, so she called the police, who came to her house and tore up everything looking for clues as to who the intruder was. And that's when they found this hole behind her couch. And inside this hole was rope, tape, a lock of Shannon's hair, and a vial of her blood. Police said that it looked like someone had been living in this hole for months. Whoever this was never found, and Shannon has since moved homes, but every now and then she complains of a weird scratching noise at night.
I honestly feel like that's most girls. I feel like most girls wake up with bruises on their body. The sawdust, yeah, I don't believe that's everyone. If I caught someone living in my house, oh my god, I'm just gonna have to be like, what?
We need to talk about this photo. This was sent to me by one of my followers, Laura, and when I read this true story about what happened to her, my jaw was on the floor. I've never read a story that actually happened to someone that was this terrifying. So let's get into the story. This photo was taken when I was 1. I had a nanny back in Indonesia and she acted very strange. Everyone felt uneasy around her and felt chills whenever she was around. Her eyes were cold and she was awkward, but at first we didn't think much of it. She was only around for a couple weeks because the next thing that happened blew my mind. One day my mom came home and found our door unlocked, the lights off, and the sound of someone's voice chanting. And on top of that, I was screaming and crying. So my mom got our neighbor and together they barged in the door, only to find me latched onto my nanny and no one could pull me off. They had to perform some kind of exorcism in order to get my arms off of her. And then she started mumbling under her breath saying, "This is impossible, usually they be by now." Later, we found out there was a group of people in a satanic cult that went around nearby towns pretending to be nannies so they can perform sacrifices to the devil and pretend it's an accident. In return, they were promised fame and money. And based on the words this lady mumbled after the ritual, it's clear that this isn't the first time she's performed this sacrifice. I only found this out months ago, but every time I see this photo, I feel chills down my spine. Oh my god.
Yo, that's absolutely ridiculous. Imagine having a nanny and whole time nanny's performing rituals on your kid. Yo, I would be so mad. That's actually kind of scary.
A lot of Christians will not listen to Taylor Swift anymore. They believe she's crossed a line, she's doing way too much demonic shit. There's a really interesting new crazy conspiracy theory about one of her songs in particular. Craziest conspiracy theory ever about Taylor Swift is that she is the rejuvenated clone of the high priestess of the Church of Satan, Zena Lovett. Their lips, nose, eyes look identical. They both happen to have the same fixation of snakes and snake handling. And it's insane because they're both renowned singer-songwriters. Like, that's their main job. Each of them, they have too much in common. Now, in 2023, there's definitely been an uptick in the amount of demonic symbolism in Taylor Swift's music videos and songs. This amazing Christian TikToker, Karu, got millions of likes for saying,
"Here's why I don't listen to Taylor Swift anymore as a Christian."
His theory that he talks about specifically is about the Willow music video, where there's this string attached to her piano, and anytime someone hears her play music, they get entranced and obsessed with her. They want to be by her. And his whole point was that people get so obsessed with Taylor to the point where they're almost worshiping her, like she has their soul or something. In the video, she's on her ritualistic witch ceremony shit. He thinks all those oars represent people's souls who are obsessed with Taylor. And she follows that string right back to her piano because that's what gets people to be obsessed with her. That's where her power lies. This makes sense because Willow is very demonic coded on tour.
You
I say, the craziest part about this whole conspiracy theory, make sure you follow so you finally know the craziest conspiracy theories about each year's favorite celebrities and request who you want to see next.
I personally don't listen to Taylor Swift, but there has been a lot of demonic trends lately. Like Doja Cat's been on it. Like a lot of these artists, even The Weeknd has been on like these demonic trends. I don't know what's going on in the industry, but it's probably just an agenda, honestly. But hey man, you either listen to it or you don't.
I feel like you're a straight talker.
I am.
Except you're not sometimes.
Yeah.
So why do that? Like, what was the reason?
I think just not being ready yet. Still trying to figure out between the two of us how to be in partnership, right? And in regards to how do we present that to people, you know? And we hadn't figured that out.
Why did the relationship fracture?
Oh, why it fractured, that's a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I think by the time we got to 2016, we were just exhausted with trying. I think we were both kind of still stuck in our fantasy of what we thought the other person should be.
Jada says she considered a legal divorce, but could never go through with it.
I made a promise that there will never be a reason for us to get a divorce. We will work through whatever. And I just haven't been able to break that promise.
But you still live separately.
We live separately.
Yeah, there's a lot of things going around with Jada and Will Smith. Me personally, you know, it's not my business, so I don't even really know if I should speak on that. I'm not like no celebrity gossip drama person, if I'm being real. But all I'm saying is that I don't know who's in the right. I gotta know like both sides of the story in depth, because all I know is like Jada's been like bashing Will Smith and everyone's been clowning Jada and Will. So who knows, honestly. Maybe the situation looks kind of crazy, like listening to it from the outside.
Ever see a picture that just gives you like full body chills? This photo was captured in 2007, and it seems like kind of a harmless picture, right? There's nothing that's very out of the ordinary. It's taken outside of an apartment window by a woman named Maria Leontinka in Czech Republic. A man was just outside of the apartment. He was screaming, he was shouting, and this woman took the picture because she was going to report it to the property manager, having no idea that something very dark just occurred in that building. Inside that apartment building in 209 was a family of 4, all of which had been decapitated, and it's believed that man who was captured was responsible. Police are then able to connect the dots of another picture that was taken across town on the same exact day. It's believed to have been the same man, that he approached this group of teenagers and he was bragging about what he had just done, and they weren't sure if he was for real, if he was kidding, psychotic, so they took a picture of his face before he eventually ran. And this was the best shot they got. They even sketched the man, but they never found him, and his motive remained unknown.
That is a true story. It's actually a little bit crazy that people just go out their way to do stuff like that. That's what I'm telling you guys. You got to be careful of who you're around.
A door to this Indian temple has never been opened, and people think that only darkness lays behind it. This is the Padmanabhaswamy temple, and it was said that in the 1930s, treasure hunters came here and attempted to open the doors to the temple, and as soon as they pried them open, serpents emerged from one of the vaults unexpectedly. For many years, no one attempted to open this temple door due to the curse that said anyone who defiles this temple will die. But back in 2001, archaeologists decided to go explore this temple, and when they did, they discovered 6 different vaults with gold coins they dated back to over thousands of years ago. But in the end, archaeologists came to find out that there was actually 7 doors, but this door actually was too dangerous to unveil and was full of darkness. It was said to be guarded by 2 large serpents, and if it was opened, it could flood the whole temple. Now that's just rumors. Who's to say it couldn't be much worse than that?
Me personally, if someone's telling me, yo, there's serpents and snakes and evil curses in that tombstone room, I'm not going in there. What the fuck am I going in there for? If you would try to go in that tomb, put it down in the comments. Why she come in like that?
Legend has it there's a dark backstory to that video I just played. We all remember that video, I Feel Fantastic, posted by Tara the Android on YouTube. It went viral back in the day. It's really creepy. Well, legend has it there's an even more sinister backstory. Rumor has it that the clothes that this android is wearing are actually from a girl named Tara who was unalived. It's also said that the lyrics of this song, I Feel Fantastic, are actually Tara's last words, programmed into an android. The video then cuts to Tara sitting on the floor wearing a black outfit looking up at the ceiling. And then it cuts again to an upside down shot of Tara sitting in what looks like snow.
Then it cuts to this, which is rumored to be a spot outside where the real Tara is buried. It is just a hoax, but it's still really creepy.
Yeah, I've heard about that story. This is like the second or third time I heard about that story. It is kind of creepy, but they did say it was a hoax.
These are everyday foods you didn't know could kill you, part 2. Up first are cashews. Cashews that you see in stores have been steamed to remove a chemical called urushiol, which is found in poison ivy. Consuming raw cashews can actually be extremely fatal, especially to people who have an allergy towards poison ivy. So if you ever come across cashews in the nature for some reason, just know don't touch them or eat them. Next up are cherries, and more specifically the pit of the cherry. The pit of a cherry contains compounds that our body turns into cyanide, which is an extremely deadly poison. And all you need to do is eat 1 or 2 cherry pits to die. So next time you eat a cherry, make sure to stay away from the pit.
You know, I've always known about that cherry pit, but I thought it was like at least 5+ cherry pits. I didn't know it was just 1 or 2 that can kill you. And that's crazy because I also eat cashews religiously. Like I'll eat a tub of cashew in like a day, I swear to God. Swear to God.
This is why you should never sleep on the 2nd floor. This story is called The Window Next Door by Junji Ito, and I literally could not sleep after reading it. The main character Hiroshi and his parents move into a new house. And this house has 2 floors, but it only has 1 room on the 2nd floor with a window facing the neighbor's house. And Hiroshi decided to live in that room on the 2nd floor, which turned out to be a terrible mistake. Because one night as he's about to fall asleep, he hears a voice coming from his neighbor's window. And this voice is calling out to him saying, "Dear boy, dear boy." Then this face appears in the window and stares directly at him. This woman continues to say, "Dear boy, why not come over and play? I'll be waiting." At this point, Hiroshi is terrified, but he sits back down on his bed and tries to ignore it. But the next night, things got so much worse. The same voice came from his neighbor's window again. Except this time, when the woman appeared by the window, she took out a long pole and tried to climb into Hiroshi's room. Hiroshi pushed the pole away and ran downstairs screaming in fear. But his parents didn't believe him and said that he must have been dreaming. So being forced to keep sleeping in that room, Hiroshi realized every night since then, the voice seemed to be moving closer and closer to him. Until one day he looked outside and realized the window was growing out of the neighbor's wall and coming towards him.
That's why I like all Japanese story and story forms. Like for example, anime. I talk a lot about anime. I like anime. I swear to God, they always have some really unique and creative stories with plot with a lot of depth to it.
Disturbing things caught inside taxis. In this video, a taxi cab is driving at night. The camera has a full view of the empty backseat. Shadows pass through the car as the car passes under street lamps. However, one shadow forms and stays. It looks exactly like a person in shadow form. It lingers for a few seconds in the back of the car and then disappears. The driver didn't seem to notice.
I really would just say that's just like a camera illusion, but still, that's kind of creepy. Imagine that outline was a little bit too perfect also.
Scary things caught on camera. On May 14, 2013, YouTuber Chris Wells uploaded a very disturbing video. In this video, his kitchen is being completely demolished by what appears to be paranormal activity. Though things calm down for a moment, the disaster resumes, but this time even closer to the camera. If you look closely, the video seems extremely realistic. You can't see any strings or wires attached to the objects. To this day, Chris Wells still has no clue what happened and once even tried to contact the poltergeist itself. Take a look. Follow for more videos and comment whether you think this is real or not.
All right, I have 2 things to say. 1 is, do you guys think that was real? And 2, every single time I see a ghost clip where a ghost is just in someone's house, it's always destroying their objects. Like, why do ghosts feel the need to come into my living space and destroy everything I have? He's not doing nothing to me. He's not physically hurting me. It's just destroying my house. Like, why? Why you should always check your shoes? Oh no! That is some Florida. Snake in your shoe is literally insane. Could you imagine that?
This next story
Terrifying
makes me
camping
never want to
experience.
camp again. In the fall time, 3 friends were camping in southern Utah. When it began getting dark, they made a fire, sat around it, and had dinner. They suddenly heard a weird chirping noise, almost like a kookaburra, but slowed way down. It didn't sound like any normal animal. Something then began rustling and moving around in the trees, but they couldn't see what it was. After a while it stopped and they went to bed. Everything was fine until one of them was woken up in the middle of the night. She saw what looked like 2 hands pressed up against the side of her tent. She also heard a wet breathing sound, almost like somebody was wheezing. Terrified and unable to speak, she quickly woke her sister up. They stayed as quiet as possible until the handprints faded away. They didn't sleep at all, and once the sun rose, they quickly packed up their stuff to leave. Curious, they looked where they had seen the handprints, and what they found was a trail of long, skinny footprints leading up to their campsite, but not away. Not wanting to stick around and find out what it was, they quickly left. To this day, the girls are convinced that it was a skinwalker.
I think there might just be some folklore or people's just imaginations. If you think skinwalkers are real, put it down in the comments. I'm pretty sure I said that before, but still. Apparently Michael Jackson been hiding his real voice from all of us this whole time. So it turns out his voice isn't like high-pitched Cardi baby voice. His voice is actually mad deep. And in this video you can kind of hear it, but like he switches it instantly.
Can you hear me?
And in these videos I'm about to show you, his voice is actually deep. Like what the?
Let's confess, it feels good to be thought of as a person, not as a personality. And all my fans around the world, ladies and gentlemen, I am greatly humbled by this award.
I'm not gonna lie to you, his voice did sound deep towards the end there, right there. He might be the new Pop Smoke for real. And for those who are confused, yes, that was me. Actually got close to 1 million views on that. I got 888,000 views on that TikTok. Like I think a year or two ago, I was posting videos like that like a year or two ago. You can check out my account right here.
Okay.
I mean, that's true. Like, considering the fact that it's December right now, all you're just gonna hear is, I don't want. Bro, I swear to God, every December, they spam Mariah Carey. She's good, but chill.
Don't believe what this woman did.
What'd she
In
do?
1972, a woman appeared in a Los Angeles hospital wearing nothing but a white dress covered in red liquid. But this wasn't an ordinary woman. Her face almost looked like a mannequin. She did not have any eyebrows, and her face was smeared in makeup. It even gets creepier, because the woman had a kitten in her mouth. She threw it on the floor and collapsed. She was then rushed into a hospital room. She was completely calm, expressionless, and motionless. However, when it was time to sedate her, she lashed out, and 2 nurses had to hold her down. The doctor asked her, "What are you?" She then turned to the doctor and smiled, revealing that she did not have normal human teeth. She had razor-sharp teeth. She signaled him down to her as if to whisper in his ear. She then attacked him, and while he lay on the floor suffering, she leaned over top of him and said, "I am God." She has never been seen since then.
I just really hope when she like waved him down to come to her ears, he did not actually go to her ears. But nah, I don't know why she playing God like her. She's really not God.
Legend of the boyfriend.
A girl and her boyfriend were driving at night down an isolated country road. As they drove, the night seemed to get darker and darker. Eventually, they lost their way and found themselves driving through a densely wooded area that neither of them recognized. The girlfriend panicked as it was gone midnight. The boyfriend got out of the car and took a look around. They were in a secluded and wooded area. All he could see were trees. There seemed to be no houses for miles around. They were completely alone. The girlfriend was spooked and kept asking the boy to do something. He told her he would have to walk back to the main highway and get help. The boyfriend could see that his fiancée was scared, so he told her not to worry. He would return as fast as he could. But the girl could see the concern in his face. Kissing her goodbye, he told her to roll up the windows and lock the doors. Then he set out walking down the road. The girl watched as her boyfriend got further and further away and finally disappeared into the darkness. Hours passed, and the girl sat shivering in the car, fearful of every shadow she saw and every noise she heard. She began to feel like her boyfriend was never coming back. Suddenly, she heard a loud tapping noise on the roof of the car.
Tap, tap, tap.
She began to panic but was too terrified to get out and investigate. She kept trying to peer out the windows, but it was too dark to see anything.
Tap, tap, tap.
She was forced to remain huddled in the car all night long, listening to the weird tapping sound. Eventually, she managed to fall asleep. When she woke up and looked at her watch, it was 9 a.m. but when she tried to look out of the car windows, everything was completely black. She couldn't understand what was going on. Suddenly, she heard a car pull up nearby and it honked its horn 3 times. Then she heard a voice shouting,
"This is the police. Is there anyone in the car?"
The girlfriend sighed with relief.
Just me. My boyfriend left me here alone and never came back.
Okay. Stay calm, said the policeman. Listen to me very carefully. Open the door, get out of the car, and walk towards me. Whatever you do, don't look behind you. The girl obeyed the policeman's orders. Even though her hands were shaking and her mind was racing, she opened the car door and stepped out. Now walk towards me, said the policeman, and don't look behind you. But it was too late. The girl couldn't help herself. She turned around and began screaming in horror.
Her boyfriend's dead body was hanging upside down from a tree branch over the car. His head had been chopped off and blood was dripping down from his neck, completely covering the car windows.
That was a crazy story. I was actually thinking about it. I was like, what if those taps are like blood drops? And it was. I knew it, bro.
Next video comes from a series of Snapchat stories uploaded by a woman named Mackenzie Smalley. She can be seen walking outside in the middle of the day in Old Town Scottsdale, probably just trying to enjoy her afternoon and take in the fresh air. However, that's made impossible because just behind her, a creepy man in a pickup truck is following her, turning down every corner she is. At one point in the video, she kindly tells the man, "I need you to stop following me," but it's obvious that he won't obey her wishes.
I need you to stop following me right now. I don't know you. I don't know you. Bye!
She then says that at one point, she even needed to break into a full-on sprint in order to get away from the eerie being. Luckily, the woman was able to escape from the man, but she's expressed her frustration that people who saw the incident unfold didn't do anything to help her.
And the most frustrating part about all of that was I was looking at all the other cars that were driving by, like looking, like saying, like, help, like this, like giving them like the eye, and I didn't do anything.
Honestly, being stalked is such a weird feeling. I could not imagine that. Mostly as a woman that's just trying to mind her business. I don't know what that guy's agenda was, but hopefully she's safe.
This is one of the worst experiments ever conducted in the United States on people. It's the Tuskegee experiment. In 1932, 600 black men were recruited for a study in Alabama by being promised free medical care. 399 of these men were suffering from syphilis, a common STI, and the study promised medical care for the rest of their lives. But that's not what happened. Secretly, the study was designed to track the full progression of the infection, meaning that the subjects were not given real medicine. Instead, they were given aspirin and mineral substances. The progression of syphilis is terrible, and many men in the study went blind and insane. Meanwhile, researchers were watching this happen and did not intervene. Probably the worst part of this entire study was that in 1943, while the study was going on, penicillin became the most common cure of syphilis, but because it would have interrupted the study, none of the men were given it. The study was shut down in 1972, but at that point, many men had already lost their lives. President Bill Clinton formally apologized for the study in 1997, but for many, it was too little too late.
Like what can those people do with an apology, bro? Like, let's get real.
Were the pyramids built? Many Egyptologists believe that the enormous pyramids were merely tombs where the pharaohs were buried. However, there is a theory that the pyramids actually were created for a different purpose. Many of us know that the pyramids had secret shafts built into the construction, but no one knew what they were for. It was not until Christopher Dunn made a scaled-down model of the Great Pyramids and started pouring water into it. As a result, the pyramid resonated at a frequency capable of emitting electrons. A man who was really fascinated and found a lot of inspiration from the pyramids was Nikola Tesla. When he developed the Tesla Tower, a device capable of harnessing energy through the atmosphere. Is it possible that a more advanced civilization had any type of advanced technology in the pyramids?
But you gotta really think, you know how long it really takes us to make something that big with that heavy material? And they made multiple of it. I couldn't tell you, bro. I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
You've heard of Charles Manson, but I bet you haven't heard of Tony Costa. In 1968, young women were disappearing from Cape Cod, and Tony Costa seemed to be at the center of it. See, in his daily life, Tony Costa was a charming man. But Tony had another side of himself that he referred to as Corey. And Corey had a thirst for blood. He would lure his victims into this graveyard where he would promise them drugs, but instead would take their lives and dismember them. And since it was the 1960s and there were so many transient teens coming in and out of Cape Cod, it took police officers months to take any of these disappearances seriously. We know about his victims Patricia Walsh, Marian Wysocki, Susan Perry, and Sydney Monson, but there's potentially 4 others. And you can read all about Tony Costa in Helltown, Casey Sherman's new book. It's a great end of summer read, really putting you at the heart of coastal New England during the hippie movement, including all the love, drugs, and murder that took place.
This TV show uses VR to bring people back from the dead. Okay, so we all had a loved one or just some close friend pass away in our lives at least once. And I know all of us would do anything in our power to bring them back from the dead. But this South Korean TV show, in a way, is actually doing that. With the power of VR, they are capable of bringing back anybody from the dead. Just watch this video of this mother who's reuniting with her daughter 3 years after she died.
엄마 어디 있었어? 엄마 내 생각했어? 맨날 해. 엄마 많이 보고 싶었어. 엄마도 나 보고 싶었어. 우리 나연이.
Not gonna lie, that was one of the saddest clips I've ever seen in my existence. Mom couldn't touch, yo, is that, would you guys really feel satisfied with having that VR technology? I don't think I would be satisfied.
This woman may have saved your life. Marie Van Britton Brown, a nurse from Queens, worked the night shift. This left her frequently walking home alone in the dark, and she didn't always feel safe. It was the 1960s and crime was on the rise. And it wasn't just the commute home that worried her. Even when she got home, she was worried that someone would break in. Marie's husband worked odd hours as an electrician, and she knew a call to police may mean waiting for them to show up, so Marie decided to take matters into her own hands. She enlisted the help of her husband and his electrical expertise, and Marie invented and developed a home security system that used a motorized camera, remote door unlocking, an intercom, and a button that would alert 911 if an assailant broke in. Marie's homemade system made it possible to see who was at your front door from your bedroom for the very first time in history. Marie's invention was patented, and her ideas can be seen in security systems all around the world. Think about how many lives Marie has saved with her invention. Go Marie! What are your thoughts?
That's an amazing invention by Marie. I hope she got paid the bag for that, and she probably didn't, because, you know, a lot of people like to steal ideas and then make the bag from it. But hopefully she, you know, she made money. At least she's getting recognized for that. That's really smart. Good for her.
This is the weirdest form of torture ever. Okay, so this is tickle torture. And it was used to abuse, dominate, harass, humiliate, and interrogate an individual. During tickle torture, the victim being tickled may laugh, whether or not they find the experience pleasant. Tickle torture may be a consensual activity, or it could be forced. And forced tickle torture can cause real physical and mental distress in the victim, which is why it's been used as an interrogation method or to simply show dominance over another person. But this is where tickle torture gets extremely weird. Europeans used goats to carry out this form of torture and dip the victim's feet in salt water, which the goat then licked endlessly. The victim's feet would then be dipped in salt water over and over again, and the process would then be repeated. This is extremely weird and is definitely the weirdest torture method I ever heard of, because why in the world would they use goats?
I like that. Towards the end, he was like, because why in the hell would they use goats? Literally, like, why goats? You could use anything, but goats? America. That wasn't even America, I'm bugging. If you like the chain, check the link down below. We're offering free shipping. You know, you can get it for a Christmas gift for your family, your friends, whatever you want.
Shadow people explained. Shadow people are 2D entities. With no real features, they're just kind of pitch black. Most people say shadow people get into your home via a portal, which most often is a mirror. The theory goes that shadow people used to be human beings, but there were also some that weren't humans, meaning their personalities and what they may do can vary. But they're all pretty much very intelligent. Although if they are spotted by humans, they most often will flee. Another explanation for what these things are sleep paralysis hallucinations. which makes this less of a supernatural thing and more of a scientific thing. But also some people think they're aliens, so who knows.
Shadow people are kind of weird to explain because it's one of those things where it's like, it might be a hallucination, it might be another entity, we'll never really know. When I looked into it, pretty much said that it's just like a perception, so.
A man in a graveyard caught something horrifying on camera. In this video, a man takes a camera with him into a cemetery at night because he heard the sound of a young girl crying from the graveyard near his house. As he enters the cemetery, he is visibly scared, and keeps telling himself that he is an idiot for putting himself in this situation.
No seas idiota. ¿Qué es esto, güey? No está nada lógico una niña llorando en un cementerio a las 12 de la noche.
He spots the girl and points the camera at her.
Amiga. Niña. Ay, no seas imbécil. ¡Ellas, güey! ¡Ellas, güey! ¡Por favor!
What the hell's that man doing in the graveyard at that time of night? He said don't be an idiot, but is doing something idiotic.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew. Part 26. Atoms are 99% nothing, which makes us 99% nothing as well. Also, if you come in contact with someone or something, you're not actually touching them. You're simply sensing the repulsion between your atoms and theirs. You can get bed bugs from movie theater seats. In 1386, a French pig was publicly executed for the murder of a child. The pig was given full legal representation and provided human clothes for the trial. A 7-year-old South African girl is more likely to be raped than to receive an education. In the 1950s, many babies in orphanages didn't cry very often because they knew their cries wouldn't be answered. Hans Langseth, the man with the longest beard in history, died when he tripped over it and cracked his neck. The maximum prison sentence in Brazil is 30 years, meaning that mass murderers like Pedro Rodrigues Filho, who killed over 100 people, are walking free today.
I'm really trying to figure out though is if the maximum sentence is 30 years, can you just get like multiple life sentences though? Like, it doesn't only have to be 30.
Disturbing moments caught at McDonald's. This woman, fed up with waiting for her food at a McDonald's, begins trashing the store and throwing things at the staff behind the counter. She starts by simply looking fed up before the clip cuts, and she comes in from off camera. She throws a bucket, containers, wet floor signs, and more. All we can see are other guests trying to get away from her and the employees trying to scramble out of the line of fire.
That's how you know these people are addicted to that, man. Like, come on, you couldn't just wait.
These twins barely spoke to anyone but each other. As children, their parents quickly noticed that Jennifer and June Gibbons weren't like the other kids. They were unusually inseparable and even created their own language. By their teens, they were even mirroring each other's actions. They would move and walk exactly alike. But even after seeing specialists, no one could figure out what was going on with the girls. One speech therapist noticed that it seemed like June wanted to talk but was controlled by her sister. Their diaries revealed that June felt the same. She called her sister a dark shadow, and Jennifer felt that they were fatal enemies. They tried separating the girls, but they rapidly declined into a trance-like state. When they reunited, they withdrew even more and stopped talking to their family almost completely. By the time they were 18, they were rebelling and arrested for arson. They were committed to a maximum security prison where they lived for 12 years. In March 1993, the twins were being transferred to a low security, but when they arrived, Jennifer was unresponsive and pronounced dead at age 29. It seemed like she just fell asleep and never woke up. After this, Jennifer began speaking and interacting with the world as if she had her whole life.
I know with twins there's like a bond with them that no one can really explain. I'm not sure what it is because I'm not a twin. If you're a twin, let me know down in the comments.
Scary stories in 60 seconds or less. This single mom was gonna have the night to herself when her older kids went out, so she was totally happy to just curl up on the couch and watch some TV. As the night got later and later, she finally turns the TV off to head upstairs to bed. She was just about to hit the lights when suddenly she noticed something in the kitchen. She swore she saw something run by the kitchen window, but she tried to calm herself down and maybe just convince herself that it was just her reflection she saw. She felt a bit uneasy, but decided to head over to the window to look, but she only got halfway when she heard something. The soft tapping of a finger on the window and a muffled voice from outside saying, "Hi." She stood there completely frozen as her eyes adjusted and she could suddenly make out the outline of a pale-faced man who had been watching her from outside the window. She screamed and ran for the bathroom where she called 911 and they came, but they never found that man, nor did they know what he was planning to do to her.
Man, if that was me, someone's getting shot, punched, or beat up because I don't know that dude's intentions. For all I know, he could have been trying to do me harm.
After a walk with her dog, a woman notices that a man has followed her into her yard. Her doorbell camera recorded the entire incident. In the video, the woman picks up her dog and rushes inside her house after she sees the man behind her. Luckily, she locked her door, because the man walks up to the house and tries to get in. He tries to talk to her as he wiggles the doorknob. The woman called the police, but they didn't get to her house until 15 minutes later. The man was not even arrested, as police said trespassing is only a citation and he just needs to be seen in court.
Man, what? That's what I'm talking about. People just walk up to your door trying to open it after you. Like, what was bro's intention? That's what I'm saying, man. If that was me, you getting hurt or...
This is a true horrifying story of what causes jinns to possess humans. For those who don't know what jinns are, they are the paranormal. They are demons. Some refer to them as evil spirits. Other religions refer these incidents as demonic possessions. Regardless of what religion you follow, a demonic possession is a thing that is mentioned in your books. This episode is not specifically a story, but I will explain the details on how possessions happen. Now remember, there are 3 causes and 4 conditions behind the jinn possession. These are the 3 causes. 1. Oppression, the rarest cause. A jinn will possess you for the simplest reason. He just doesn't like you. Number 2. Love. The ashiq jinn. A jinn can fall in love with a human and start possessing that person. There are reasons behind this. Maybe you spend a lot of time in your house undressed, thinking no one can see you. The jinn is actually staring at you, and some will even be attracted to you. Number 3. Unintentional harm. When you accidentally harm a jinn, an example, you poured boiling water somewhere outside, and it accidentally harmed the jinn, they will seek vengeance. Now these are the 3 causes. What about the conditions? Can jinns possess you at any time, anywhere? No. There are 4 conditions you must meet before a jinn can possess you. Condition 1. Extreme anger. When you're in a state of extreme anger, you are widening the gate for a demonic possession. Condition 2. Excessive fear. Same thing. When you're in a state of extreme fear of your surroundings. Condition 3. A state of excessive heedlessness. Not physically, spiritually. And condition 4. Pleasure. It is the state of when you are alone enjoying your desires. You know, when you do what you do while watching inappropriate content. These are the 4 conditions that you need to be in for a jinn to possess you. But these conditions aren't always the case for a demonic possession. They are the states for the jinns to possess you, and they only open a wider gate for demons to use you. Demonic possessions are real, and they are lethal, and they are not easy to treat. Jinns are predators that we cannot see.
After that video, I'm never going to be in a state of pleasure, heedlessness, anger, or fear. I'm literally just going to be the most stoic and unbothered person of all time.
If you do this much, you will die. Part 2. First is gaming. If you play video games for 7 days straight, you will die. Several people have died doing this when they are completing a gaming marathon. So whatever you do, never play video games for more than 7 days. Next up is time without pooping. If you go 2 weeks without pooping, you will die. It also completely depends on your diet, but the average time to die from not pooping is 2 weeks. Finally is self-pleasuring yourself. You would die after going 42 times. A Brazilian teenager died from shock after going 42 times without stopping. I don't know who in their right mind would do this anyway, but if you're one of these people, never go over 42 times.
Yo, he said 42 times without stopping. 42 times is crazy though. I don't know what bro was going through, but...
Can you do the Harbinger experiment? Warning, this story gets a tad bit disturbing, so if you're sensitive to stuff like that, now is the time to exit. The Harbinger experiment is a creepypasta story about tests done on 3 subjects to prove that supernatural phenomena exists. As you probably already guessed, these tests go extremely wrong. The experiment was conducted by a scientist called Zimmerman. He had 3 other scientists helping him with this project. one of which is the narrator of this story. In an underground chamber, as you can see, this is the entrance depicted here, Zimmerman had lured 3 test subjects into the testing building where they were each placed in their own separate confinement chambers. They were lured there under the belief that they would be engaging in a harmless isolation experiment. After the test subjects arrived, they were injected with a substance that Zimmerman had created. Little did they know that this substance would turn them from humans into monsters. Part 2 is in the comments. This is part 2 of the Harbinger experiment. The point of this experiment was for Zimmerman to summon beings, creatures if you will, from another realm to enter the bodies of the 3 test subjects. On the first day of the experiment, after the 3 test subjects were all put in their separate confinement chambers, Zimmerman held a meeting where he got on a loudspeaker and began chanting. Nobody knew what he was saying. It seemed as though only he knew what he was saying, and whatever he was doing seemed like a ritual of sorts. About 5 minutes after the chanting began, the ground started shaking violently, like an earthquake. And then everything stopped, including the security cameras. You see, they had set up security cameras in each of the confinement chambers so that they could monitor the test subjects. And all of the cameras went to static. Shortly after this, the test subjects began screaming for their lives. The screaming didn't stop for hours. It was time for the team to leave, and they were ordered to return back at 10 a.m. What they saw when they returned back horrified them.
This is why when it comes to like doing tests for the government or anything, I'm not doing all that. I'm being real. I'm not doing all that. Like, you do a test, next thing you know, you come back 10 years, your whole liver is falling down, you got possessed by 10,000 demons. Like,
the Harbinger experiment, last part. Now's the time to make sure that all of your lights are off, because it's gonna get real spooky. When everybody returned at 10 o'clock the next morning, the security cameras were still all static, except for number 2. The security camera in test subject number 2's chamber showed her lifeless body. After waiting for a while, number 3's monitor turned back on, showing that test subject number 3 had turned into a humanoid. His arms now stretched down as far as his knees. There was nothing human about him anymore. He was now a monster. The security team decided to go into his chamber, and that's when he got violent. He attempted to ambush them, which resulted in the security team unaliving him, which meant that test subject number 1 was the only one left. Suddenly, in the underground chambers, music started playing. The music was coming from test subject number 1, who erupted out of his chamber, quickly unaliving everybody in his path. He was easily 10 feet tall, maybe even 15 feet. People tried to run, but in the end, they couldn't.
Serial killer would release his victims in the woods. Also known as the Butcher Baker, Robert Christian Hansen is one of America's prolific serial killers. Between 1971 and 1983, Hansen had abducted, raped, and murdered 17 women in Anchorage, Alaska. His sickening killing technique is that he'd let these kidnapped women let loose in the wild, only to hunt them down with his rifle. He'd eventually kill them using his knife. His sentence, 461 years imprisonment.
if you ask me, that was a well-deserved sentence, man. He should have honestly got the death penalty. Like, that's just sick.
If you do this much, you will die. Part 1. Up first is sex. If you have sex for more than 15 hours, you will die. Sex can be very dangerous, especially in older men, and it can cause heart problems. Next up is time without sleeping. If you go 11 days without sleeping, you will die. And if that's not bad enough, staying up this late can make you lose your memory, cause paranoia and hallucinations. Next up are burgers. If you eat 27 burgers, you will die. Your death will either be caused by cardiac failure, dehydration, or seizures. So if you're a burger lover, do yourself a favor and never eat 27.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I would never eat that much burgers.
Interesting facts about Adolf Hitler. In 1923, Hitler attempted a coup known as the Beer Hall Putsch in Munich, aiming to overthrow the Bavarian government. The coup failed, and Hitler was arrested and sentenced to prison. Despite his public image of strength and authority, Hitler struggled with personal insecurities. He was known to be sensitive about his short stature and took measures to project an image of power and dominance. Hitler reportedly had a dislike of cats. It is said that he believed they were conspiring against him. Hitler followed a vegetarian diet for much of his life, believing it was healthier and aligned with his vision of Aryan purity. He also had a fear of dentists and often avoided dental treatments, which contributed to his deteriorating oral health.
That makes more sense. You could tell that the way how he presented himself was through insecurities, but that's how it is sometimes. But I'm not gonna lie, that fair dentist one is a little bit insane. Like, your teeth are important to your everyday health, so. These two friends right here took 20 hits of LSD and only one made it out alive. This right here is Sheldon Stewart, and that is Trevor Homensky. This story gets kind of twisty, so stay with me towards the end. This is Trevor. He fulfilled his longtime dreams of joining the US Marines. And as a final goodbye, he decided to go camping one last time with his best friend Sheldon. As him and Trevor decided to take a 2.5-hour journey to Bucks Lake, California, they decided to both take 20 hits of LSD. The next morning as they got to the campsite, firefighters got a report of a raging brush fire in that area. They found Sheldon's body with over 10 stab wounds to his neck. So this asks the question, where is Trevor and what happened the night of the camping trip? So luckily, Sheldon was actually alive and they started to question him. Sheldon told them him and Trevor both took 20 hits of acid and woke a little bit of schmeat on top of that, and they both started tripping heavy. As they were tripping, Sheldon said that Trevor wanted to have some naughty time with him, in which Sheldon completely denied. This got Trevor mad. He then stood on top of his best friend, stabbing him 10 times in the neck. Imagine? You know, this is gonna be too long, so stay tuned for part 2. Yeah, that was me. I made that video. We're lit! Part 2 right now, though. I'm playing part 2 right now. Stop. I know. This is part 2 of the kids who took 20 hits of acid and only one made it out alive. After Sheldon got stabbed 10 times in the neck, he claimed he saw Trevor run off into the woods. The day the firefighters found Sheldon, they also found a burnt body in a ditch. While the police were investigating Sheldon, the autopsy report came back for the burnt body. And turns out, the burnt body was Trevor. The autopsy claimed Trevor had one stab wound to his back and one also in his chest. So now the investigators are very suspicious of Sheldon, with him going from the victim to the main suspect. They claim all of Sheldon's slash and stab wounds were self-inflicted. Now the investigators completely do not believe Sheldon. They believe Sheldon stabbed Trevor, then stabbed himself, and then threw his body in a ditch and burnt it. He then claimed he only stabbed his best friend to put him out of his mercy. If you like content like this, please follow. Bro, you can't tell me I'm not a better storyteller than all the other storytellers we've watched during this whole series. Like, you can't tell me I'm not better. Like, that was interesting. I don't think y'all know how weird it is just watching yourself, bro. I used to be funny making them videos. I used to be really just chilling. Just like, oh, this is a weird story and I just made that. W Fittie. That was like 2 years ago. W me.
Jeff Bezos has $121 billion. Okay. The population of the earth is 7 billion people. He could give every person $1 billion and end poverty, and he would still have $114 billion left over, but he won't do it.
He can't give everyone $1 billion.
But he has more money than everyone.
He can give everyone $1. Are you confused?
No, I swear that's simple math though. Even the tweet, that's the tweet.
Stop it. Get some help. $1, fam. What are you talking about? There's a billion people. You give $1 billion away. It's $1 to each billion.
Yeah, which equates to 1 billion, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
So he can give everyone $13. Because after 93, 7 billion, 93.
No. Okay, yo.
So every person can get $13.
No, they can get $1 billion, but it's okay.
$1 billion? That's wrong.
Man, listen,
this guy's in university, fam.
No.
Give me his degree.
No,
give me his degree.
God, I'm not tripping.
Leave it down in the comment section. This is going for too long.
Yeah, it is.
This is going for too long. Leave it down in the comment section. Give me his degree.
Man, I wish Jeff Bezos could give me $1 billion for no reason. I would literally just be chilling. Like, I would do nothing for the rest of my life. I would low-key just be a bum. I'm being real. The gym? Hell no, I won't even hit that no more. I'd be like, I'm too rich for the gym. That was a joke.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew. Part 35. This creature is known as a woolly monkey, and due to poachers and people trading and selling them illegally, there's only 1,000 of these little guys left in the world. The uncanny valley is a phenomenon in which people become fearful at things that are very close to human, but something isn't quite right. Throughout history, mummies actually weren't that rare. That is, until the Victorian British ate so many of them. During the Arctic exploration, one of the scientists was complaining that his shoes were soaking wet. Later, when he took them off, he found this was because his feet were decaying and liquidized with his blood. A man once donated his recently deceased mother's body for scientific research. Later, he discovered that the research facility sold it to the US Army for $5 grand, strapped it to a chair, and blew it up with explosives.
I'm trying to figure out, how did they find that out? How did he know that? That's really disrespectful though, but still, how did he know that?
The terrifying legend of La Cegua. Native to Mexico and Central America, legend has it that if you see a woman on a lonely road at night, donned in a white or black vintage gown, or sometimes nothing at all, stopping to help her could be very dangerous, as it could turn out to be La Cegua. She appears on lonely roads at night, luring unfaithful men to their demise. At first, she may appear as a beautiful woman with luscious red lips and long black hair. She'll appear stranded at the side of a desolate road. She may ask to be led into your vehicle or for you to follow her somewhere. However, once you do this, her beautiful face will disappear and she will show you her true form. She will either have the head of a horse or alternatively the head of a horse's skull. It's said that those who see La Cegua's true form are driven insane. That is, if La Cegua doesn't devour them right then and there.
This is why people need to just mind their own business. If I'm being real.
True scary stories in 60 seconds or less. This story comes in from a man named Nate Daniels about his honeymoon. While this couple was out vacationing in Maui, they ended up going hiking in the bamboo forest. But when they heard running water, they thought there could be a waterfall nearby, so they ended up venturing off the trail. There was a waterfall that they found and it was beautiful, so they ended up going for a swim. Until suddenly something felt very off and his wife shrieked. Near the woods was a bearded man who sat watching them just outside of the water. The husband called out to him and the man said that he was just looking for his dog, but the couple felt uncomfortable, so they got out and went back for the trail. But they had ventured too far from that trail. They were lost, they had no cell service, and it was getting dark and they started to panic. But then suddenly heard something behind them, so the wife pulled out her flashlight and shined it in that direction. She revealed the bearded man standing there holding an axe. They darted through the woods and eventually made it out to the main road, having narrowly escaped whoever that man was.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. When Apollo 11 landed, it only had 20 seconds of remaining fuel. 4 months ago, a deceased rapper by the name Gunyu had his corpse on stage while fans were partying around his body. The average person wastes 5 months of their lives waiting for red lights to turn green. Cruise ships have morgues, just in case someone, during the trip. If you have red eyes after swimming, it's not from chlorine. It's from the chlorine mixing with other people's urine. The furthest part of the ocean from land is Point Nemo. If you get stuck there, you're not coming back. Sunburn are your cells dying to avoid being cancerous. Most laugh tracks and shows are people from the 50s, which means you're hearing the laughter of dead people. Yeah, there's a lot more, like for part 14.
W body for actually preventing us from getting cancer by killing the cells. Yep, I'm black, so I don't really get sunburned, although I do know black people can get sunburned, but I never got sunburned.
Okay, what's up, y'all? So I just heard some really trippy news about this whole Ukraine-Russia war. So a Russian parliamentary committee claims that Ukraine is using labs provided by the United States of America to create superhuman soldiers, like some mutants. But Russian propaganda has been pushing this story for years. According to Irina Yarovaya, performance-enhancing drugs given in order to completely neutralize the last traces of human consciousness and turn them into the most cruel and deadly monsters. The committee was formed to investigate this conspiracy. And so according to Ned Price, the Kremlin is intentionally spreading outright lies that the United States and Ukraine are conducting chemical and biological activities. The committee now has proof to back their wild claims. And the proof of blood samples taken from Ukrainian prisoners of war. Apparently these samples showed a range of disease, meaning they must be superhumans created in a government lab, obviously, right? I don't know, what do you guys think?
I would not be surprised if the government were working on superhumans. We kind of see in like the Marvel movies with Captain America how he's a super soldier. I would not be surprised if that actually becomes a thing. later down the road towards the future.
People who stay up late and get up late are more likely to become psychopaths. Hello, and here's some creepy facts. Most laugh tracks and shows are from people in the 50s, which means you are hearing the laughter of dead people. If you wake up between 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. for no apparent reason, there's a 90% chance something was staring at you. Lack of sleep will shrink your brain. 70% of your dreams contain hidden meanings. On average, people escape death about 6 times through their life without knowing it. You're always 6 minutes away from death, but breathing resets the clock. Your body is the weakest between 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. as this is the time most people die in their sleep. If you shiver for no reason, then it means a spirit is passing near you. Heartbreak is a real thing known as broken heart syndrome, and the symptoms are similar to a heart attack. Your phone has a very tiny camera that watches your every move. Every time you sneeze, you skip a heartbeat.
Pretty sure the phone just does more than watching us, bro. That shit hears us, knows what we're doing all the time, knows how much steps we've taken. Our phone knows us more than we probably know ourselves, if I'm being honest.
Disturbing things that you should never look up on Google. Part 2. Bianca Devins was a 17-year-old from New York known for posting e-girl content to her Instagram. In April 2019, one of her followers, 21-year-old Brandon Clark, DM'd her, sparking a romantic relationship between the two. A few months later, Bianca, Brandon, and another friend of theirs named Alex attended a concert together in the Bronx. Sometime during the concert, Brandon caught Bianca kissing Alex, which led to an argument on the car ride home. Brandon eventually began assaulting her and slicing her neck with a knife that he'd hid under his seat. He then got into Bianca's phone and posted several gruesome images of her corpse to her Instagram story and released a video of the murder as well. He then posted the following picture to her page, hinting that he was going to take his own life. However, police were notified before he could do so, and Brandon was taken into custody and sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Bianca Devins.
I say this OD, but this is why I'm telling y'all, you gotta be careful, man. Cause it's like that. I mean, I get the girl that you loved was making out with some other dude, but bro, it's tragic out here, man. I know some people whose girls they've been dating for years, months, go do some stuff with a whole nother guy. They didn't do that. They just left. This dude could've just left. Man, some of y'all men gotta get stronger, bro. It's all in here, man. Gotta get strong mentalities.
Can you do the Babadook? Disclaimer, this video is for entertainment purposes only. Viewer discretion is advised. The Babadook is a demonic creature that first made its appearance in a movie simply called The Babadook. I remember when this movie first came out because I was in high school. Did it scare me? No, because I don't get scared. But it was very creepy nonetheless. It's rumored that if you read the pages of this book aloud, you are summoning Babadook. This book starts out seeming like any other children's pop-up book, but as you continue through the pages, it becomes more sinister. See him in your room at night and you won't sleep a wink. And then it shows an image of the Babadook terrorizing a child in bed, saying, "Let me in."
Hey,
it's said that the Babadook has the ability to shapeshift, oftentimes taking form as a demonic humanoid like this, with sunken eyes and an inhuman grin. If you want a part 2 talking about what to do if you encounter a Babadook, interact with this post.
Man, I'm not rocking with that Babadook. Hell no.
The urban legend of
the Mothman. The Mothman.
The Mothman is a scary, unexplained creature with large red eyes and large wings like a moth.
It was first sighted in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and was made famous by the 2002 movie The Mothman Prophecies and has appeared before major world disasters.
The creature often appears to have no head, with red eyes set into its chest. It has been photographed and been seen by eyewitnesses and has chased and harassed a number of people.
The first sighting of Mothman was in November 1966 in Point Pleasant, Virginia. Two newlywed couples were driving together on Route 62 when they saw a dark figure on a hillside up ahead.
It was almost 7 feet tall, and it had red eyes and large black wings folded behind its back.
As they watched, it spread its wings and flew into the air. They sped off, but the dark figure followed them, even though they were driving at over 100 miles per hour.
Later that night, a man was at home watching TV when the screen suddenly went dark and was filled with a weird pattern. Just then, he heard a loud, high-pitched whining noise coming from outside his house.
When he went out to see what it was, he saw two large red eyes staring at him from the darkness. His dog took off after it and never came back. That night, The man was so scared he slept with a gun next to his bed.
News of the strange sightings spread around the world, and newspapers nicknamed the creature Mothman. Between 1966 and 1967, over 100 people saw the mysterious Mothman.
On December 15, 1967, a major disaster hit the town of Point Pleasant when the Silver Bridge collapsed during rush hour traffic.
The cars plunged into the dark waters of the Ohio River and 46 people were killed in the accident. That night, eerie lights were seen in the sky all over Point Pleasant.
The Mothman was never seen again after the bridge collapsed. Many people believe that Mothman had something to do with the disaster.
Mothman has also been sighted just before other world tragedies, such as the tsunami in India, Chernobyl in Russia, the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and September the 11th in New York.
In 2000, the story was made into a movie, The Mothman Prophecies, starring Richard Gere and Laura Linney. The paranormal reality TV show Paranormal State investigated the Mothman mystery in 2008.
That picture that they showed towards the end, that looked like a bat, like just like a random freaking bird just flying. I don't know. If you believe in the Mothman, put your story down in the comments. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you guys liked the video, please like the video. Remember to check these chains out down in the description. They got free shipping. You know, Christmas is coming up. Just get one for someone in your family. You never know. They will appreciate it. Trust me, they will. But if you guys like this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Peace out.